referral from me too. I told Bryce, I promise I showered. Hmm. Well, you'll have to tell Lori Joe that Sadie's graduating a little early.
Holy smokes, really?
Yeah,
She
her
was-
little kindergartner.
She was in the second class that she taught, right? Same for kid. They graduated last year, the first year she
Was it?
taught, yeah.
Well, Sadie, is graduating a year early. She's a junior.
Okay, I'll tell her.
But, yeah, she's actually, getting her certificate in her dental assistant
Oh, nice,
from DATC.
great.
And then she's already got a job working as a dental assistant in Ogden. And so.
I shared
exciting.
the Zoom link with you
Okay.
if we want to
Mm-mm.
have you hop on.
Yeah, you know what? I never did get my internet. first to do it, so you can look at it.
Okay, we want to welcome you to our budget meeting tonight. Before we get started, I just wanted to ask if anybody has anything they'd like to add to the agenda for next week's meeting. If you let us know by tomorrow,
Okay.
by 10 o'clock, if that gives you enough time, so we can get it out for the,
I have a couple.
okay, yeah, that would be good.
Fire department wants to come present their. What should I put it? Tax increase.
Right.
For. You know, the fire station. We do the West Haven station and build a training facility in the fire station. And so they want to do it all at once, and so they'll be a team to. They'll come present why that's good now instead of later.
Would they like to come to the next,
Probably not next one.
May 1st?
I would say. Probably either the second one in May or.
Okay.
I'll find out when.
Okay. And Bryce, do you know what you would like now?
Probably can just be handled in the work session,
Okay,
city-owned properties. And then I think there was something else too, but I can text.
but you're thinking we're okay in the work, so we don't necessarily have to have it on for the agenda.
Yeah, I think
and-
just the word
okay.
just kind of get, you know, because I know a couple other council members have asked about some different ideas.
Are you
and
on
solutions,
mute?
So we probably ought to talk about it.
Yes.
There was something else too, but I'll let Morgan know.
Yeah, if you think about what it is, just let her know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, okay, that sounds good. Hey, so Cammy, are you ready to start? Do you want me to go maybe over this with the sewer?
You can, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
go over that and then that might dictate a little bit.
Okay, so you're probably already aware of, we have a West Haven trunk line that some Hooper City residents hook into as far as sewer that is along 5100. It's called a wheeling fee. I'm not quite sure why it's called that, but that's what it is. And back in 2005, there was an interlocal agreement that was signed with West Haven that allowed some of our residents to hook into that. So there were certain subdivisions that did: Lakeview, Freedom, Jenny's Park, Wildwood, and the Greenwoods. And the homes that are actually on 5100. And so we have this force main, it hooks into West Haven, and then it goes down as far as, so it's about where Courtney Gould lives. So we're talking about 4300 south on 5100. Then it goes down to 3300 about to Rawson Ranch. That part of the trunk line is West Haven's. Then from then north, then it hooks into Central Weaver. So because we are using their line, we have paid them this wheeling fee, and it's been $3 a resident, which is what the original interlocal agreement said. The interlocal agreement actually expired in 2009, and we've never signed a new one. At that time, there was a cap on homes of 600, and we've now hooked in 972 homes. Well, we weren't aware of this until West Haven called Morgan and said we had not paid our wheeling fee for the last year. So they didn't ever send us invoices because Teresa would figure out how many homes there were. There were 976, but it was never ever communicated to us that this was something that we were supposed to be paying, and now we're a year past due. So we owe 35,000 some odd dollars to
You sent me
West
the
Haven.
invoice today.
Oh, you did send it.
West Haven start this discussion, they're the ones that started this discussion.
West
Well,
Haven.
they called me first of the year and I said, well, I've never received invoices. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. She called me again end of last week and was like, hey, we still haven't seen that payment. I said, I still haven't seen an invoice. She says, well, you guys usually create that. I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to generate for you guys. And she's like, well, it's agreed in our agreement. So I'm like, I don't know. So then I brought it to her attention and
$3 times 1,000, $3,000, right?
Well, it's a month. It's $3 per month. So this is, so Morgan went back and hunted and found this. So the last one that Teresa had done was on April of last year. And so she had broke it down, 976 homes, $3 a month, and we pay quarterly. So it's this 8,883, but because now we're a year behind, we owe this 35,000. Okay, so a couple of things here.
Oh, is that in the budget?
Yeah.
We're assuming, based upon what we've seen, that it was lumped in the utility account right here. Is what we've tracked down. That she would just code it to the utility account.
So
What
do
did she
those
code it down
residents
here?
have an increased $3 fee on their bill? Or,
So,
No,
yeah,
one
she
thing that
coded
Jared
it to
said
that
you know, like we said, now we
46,000.
can't, but now going forward, we can always do better. What he said we should have been doing, just for example, 976 houses, if when they built their home, we would have set an impact fee. And even if each one of them would have paid $1,000 impact fee, today we would have $976,000. Because now what we're facing with, well, I think he's telling you that, is we need to put in our own pipe. They said out of all the pipes they have the most problem with is actually that trunk line. For a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is, and Jared called it settling, and these are the exact words they said today when I met with them, they settle and septic, it goes septic. So that line has more smell along it than anybody else, and they say they get weekly complaints about that line. And because of that, and I wrote it down, H2S gas, it actually rots away the cement. You know how we have to replace that one manhole that we're replacing in ours? Well, there's manholes along there, but because of this buildup of gas, it's actually rotted the manholes. And so they put liners in them, and it's gotten in between the liner and anyway, it's still a problem. And and in our local agreement, we were supposed to have been paying for half of the maintenance and the repairs for these past all these years. It was originally put in 2002 with Mayor Bailey, but at that time there was only 3 homes. When they re-signed it back then in 2004, and that was when the 600 homes. So I asked them, I said, okay, we have a few subdivisions. So you have up where if we put in the Smith's Marketplace or we don't put in the Smith's Marketplace, there still is a possibility of 66 homes going in that area, even if we did no development. And you have across the street that's already been approved. Total, I asked Jared today and he said, we have probably 100 homes. Well, they have the capacity, but really it's not a good situation to always have, we need our own trunk line. Bottom line is Hooper needs to put in it's like 1 mile of trunk line that we need to put in ourselves. They said it would be less expensive to do a force main than it is to do the gravity fed. Right now it's a gravity fed. And because our sewer isn't at capacity, Jared said our sewage tends to sit in the bottom of the pipe because it's not at force. And then that's what causes it to go septic. So West Haven said, we are fine. You know, we need to back pay this year, this 35,000.
It shouldn't be a problem, with the budget that we have.
Yeah.
There's still room in the budget, we just didn't know.
Yeah. And they are fine to work with us, but this is not a long-term solution. We need to get our own. So I talked to Jared about it today, and Jared said, yes, okay, this is an issue. Though 5,100 from 4,000 to 33 is going to be a new road that they're going to be starting on here in the next few months. He said we don't want to put in a brand new road, dig it up to put in our sewer pipe. So if we're going to do this sewer pipe, we need to do it before or in conjunction when they're doing that road. I asked them today about at what cost they think it's going to be. And both the sewer at West Haven and Jared said he's thinking we probably could do it about for $800,000. The biggest expense, or one of the bigger expenses, is going under 4,000. But it has to be done. But once we do that, then we should be fine. And so our choice would be, we'd either do our own force main, so where it hooks in, and I asked him how this even works. I said, how does Lakeview get to 5100? And he said that because they have a force main that goes up 5100 south and it connects right there at 5100 west. He said there's another junction box. There's one by Courtney's house. There's one by 4000. So, but he said they'd have to have the engineer figure it out what they think, whether we want to do a force main or we want to do another gravity fed. But no matter what, we want to make sure, because we have other things coming online, like the fire station, which will also feed into that, where Hooper Water is. So this isn't just a short term, like it's not that we're saying we already have these homes. This is planning for the future. And once we did this, and it'll take care, because also around the fire station is also maybe someday homes. So that's what I asked Cami, and she can explain to you what, as far as money, because then Jared said, for sure, we've got to do from now on then, what we should have already done is we built, and we're working on the sewer impact fee. We need to build this in. So any new home from now on that comes, they get an impact because this is what an impact fee is. Or if we have Smith's Marketplace and they end up possibly doing a PID or a CRA, we build this into it and they can partially pay for this. It shouldn't just, it should be those that have the impact on it.
So with this, you can, what they call, go negative in impact fees. Basically, a lot of times you have to have the infrastructure in order to collect that impact fee. So you can pre-spend impact fee monies. So I think that is a key thing, that we know we have new developments coming in that we can recollect and call these impact fees already spent. You see my thought process
I
here?
do, but where does that money come from? If you say you pre-spend, so you're spending money that we really don't have.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
So-
it's
It'll be a
money from
capital
fund
project.
balance.
So today, what else coming out of capital projects? That's what
So well, okay, so let me correct myself. We would take it out of sewer fund. It's not capital projects fund. That's its own category. We could transfer money from capital projects fund, the council can approve this, to put into the sewer fund in two ways. You can do a loan, or you can transfer and decide that we're going to pay for it. And we're gonna the taxpayers for everybody basically is what you're thinking of, is going to pay for that sewer service. That's an option, though I see there's kind of those two options, and I just got thrown this on me too, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking as well. That, I'm like, okay, how do we do this? How do we make this work? Because I kind of think our hands are kind of tied. I mean, correct me if you guys disagree, but I think you're right, Bill. We're kind of like, where do you get the money is the thing. But, maybe I can shine a little bit better light on some of the things. So first off, like I said, we didn't print everything off again. So anything you see on the screen that isn't a solid blue, it's just the small blues, we've added or changed, okay?
Before we go, so maybe one suggestion, has anyone reached out to Teresa to see what she was doing, her process?
We've
We
tried.
tried changing.
Try, so I don't know, maybe that's good, because I'd be curious, because I think she had a system, so we probably.
For sure.
This is what we found from Teresa. So this is what she would give to West Haven. because when I went and met with West Haven today, I said, aren't getting invoices, and she said, well, because we didn't know how many homes. So they were dependent on us telling them how many homes. But then I met with Darren yesterday, and Darren told me that all of those subdivisions that I named after you, there have been no new builds. So this number that Teresa had, 976, then it's considered, this has not gone up. So the last one that Teresa did was in April, like you said, of last year. And I signed this, but I didn't know what it was. And I should have asked Teresa what this was. I knew that we had a West Haven trunk. I knew that people on 51 had been to it. But I didn't fully understand this, and I should have.
Okay, so that additional $3 cost is just being absorbed by everybody, not, okay.
Yeah.
And those residents would remain on that trunk line. So if we did put a new one in, they wouldn't switch over to the new one, they would stay on the West Haven.
No, then West Havens will no longer be there. So Jared said, what we do is we put in a new trunk line. We'll run it side by side by West Havens, because I asked him that, how do we hook that up so we don't have 900 people now that don't have sewer? He said everything would already be ran, already be tested, and within a couple of hours, they unhook West Havens and they hook up hookers. He said he would like to still leave West Havens, so as like an emergency backup. If anything ever happened to ours, we could still, but no, so all those homes would be hooked into ours, but it would be that same mile.
Does West Haven have hookups into that as well, or is it just strictly our residents?
It's us.
Just us,
A
so
lot.
they ran it basically.
Well,
So no one
Up to
on the
4,000.
east side?
up to 4,000.
Yeah.
There probably are a few homes on the east side, but West Haven doesn't start until 4,800. So there's maybe, well, we could count how many homes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses.
That they would just
That
have to
they-
worry about it, we wouldn't hook them into ours.
Yeah, or they could stay on theirs, or maybe we hook those 8 houses into ours and they pay us the wheeling fee.
Just as, you're not talking placing the pipe, you're talking just in addition to.
We're replacing, we have to, so
Oh.
we're unhooking West Havens,
The second-
have a new pipe, and then ours would go from
But West
Second
Haven
side.
still
Stays
use theirs,
Yeah.
uses theirs.
probably for their 7 houses.
Well, yeah.
So when, I had all kinds of questions, well, why did West Haven do that just for us?
Good
Why was
question.
25 years ago? Why was that built just for?
So,
Why didn't we build?
And did we
Yeah.
pay anything for it?
Right.
Did we participate? Because
So
if we
if you-
did, that's a different
if you
story.
read this original agreement, I think, because see, West Haven already was West Haven at 4,800, so I think they already had it. And then they just allowed us, from what I understand with this, from this original Dirt Bailey one, because it goes through and says this interlocal agreement allowed Hooper to hook into their pipe.
So you think they had more than 7 homes on it if they put in the pipe, but back then, maybe $500,000, I don't know. You know?
Or maybe back then it was 200, you know?
Still,
still,
7
it's a
houses
lot of
and a little
money.
trunk line for 7 houses,
Yeah,
what was the intent of that?
I agree.
I guess.
I'm not
they
seeing where
considered
they're-
their 7, I don't know. I kind of highlighted stuff in here that talked about, and I'd be happy to make any of your
Sure.
copy of
I
this.
would think, yeah.
It's an interlocal agreement, so
Oh, yeah.
that's what it is.
Um,
We didn't participate if it's an interlocal.
Yeah, I don't know that we
Yeah,
did
that's
though,
true.
because it doesn't say
Yeah.
anything about it. It just says that they were a special service district. It was established with Hooper. It just says the individuals listed, and they actually have the names, who live along the border of West Haven and within 300 feet of the line operated by the district will be allowed to hook in. And then, so they did, so they allowed, and at first, like I said, there were only these. Oh, excuse me, it was 31 homes, not 3 homes. So these are our houses that were allowed to hook in, and it started like with 3285 and came along, and then you see it comes down to like 4,600, and then there's only 3 homes which I mean, I can tell, which I know which 3 homes these were, but anyway, they're there on 51. So they already had it, and then we had 31 homes that hooked in, only on 5100 was originally. But then, so that was this with Dirk Bailey. Okay, but then with Mayor Barrow, then back in 2004, then we ended up hooking in more, and that's when they put this at a 600 home cap, and it was a 4-year. And so at that time, then there was, you know, it goes through, and that's when I asked Darren, and he said, he told me which subdivisions, but all of these weren't back in 2004. Jared said originally it was Lakeview because they didn't have anywhere to get Lakeview. So then they ran Lakeview up and hooked into it. And then they built Freedom, Jenny's Park's the one that's right there by Hooper City's holding pond for the irrigation. So then as that was built, Wildwood, Higley Meadows, and all of them hooked into it. Well, what we should have done back then is probably did our own. I mean, hindsight's always good, but we didn't. And like I say, if we would have even charged each of these houses $1,000, we would have had 970, because that's what the West Haven said today. He said, by the time you've been paying us $35,000 a year, you could have put in your own pipe. And we probably should have, but we
There
didn't.
must be more to the story. I think there's gotta be
Yeah.
more
It's gotta be.
than this.
But
Like what, Dale? What's your question?
Well, I just, because, you make it sound like it's just so obvious. But there
No.
must have been some type of provision or arrangement that was made. Take care of, and especially like Higley Meadows. To come clear down there. And of course, by that time, then you've got Hooper Landings. Starting to be built and
Well, Hooper Landing still
wondering-
went into our vacuum system.
I
So
wonder-
that's
we
the
don't lift it and
difference.
push it into this.
It's with a lift station, which is different than the vacuum.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, but where does
Where
it
does-
lift it and
where-
push it to?
Where does Hooper Landings? It doesn't go through this. Hooper Landings, so you have other main trunk lines that go along 4,000. So like us, we don't go into this. Hooper Landings
I
does it.
understand that, but Hooper Landings lifts it and pushes it. See, they could gravity feed it. I mean, why did we lift it? You're saying Hooper Landings, or even on the east side of 50-100 does not go into this.
Mm-mm. They do not.
And that's a good question too. Why did we do it that way?
Well, and maybe at the time it was less
Don't know where.
expensive. Maybe it was less expensive to pay the $3 than it was to put in another lift station. I don't know.
The portion that, like, okay, so we have all the homes along there that
Hmm.
have come out and feed into that line. We're only talking replacing that line,
One
not the
mile.
vehicles into it.
No,
So
one
all
mile
those
of
feeders
line.
would then go into that one line, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm, we're all following these, right?
Well, and I said too, so our cap, and Jared mentioned this when we had staff meeting, our cap was 600. He said, but we have a lot more homes than that. And he said, what's going to happen then if West Haven keeps pumping in more homes, we keep pumping in more homes? Well, it says in our interlocal agreement, every time we had a new house, we were supposed to have gone to the service district and had permission. Well, they had a different engineer at the time that they said, like Jared and West Haven said, probably said, okay. I mean, it was a lot of gentleman handshakes, not this, which back in 2009, this should have been reviewed, and every time since then it should have been reviewed. I don't know. I don't know why it was either, and probably at the time it seemed okay because we didn't have that many houses. The problem is now we do, and they're going to have, well, not on the east side of 5100, they won't. But
And we probably, like you were saying, Bryce, it's an interlocal agreement, so I'm thinking that we probably participated and we both paid for a portion of it or something. And bet West Haven didn't pay for all of it, but how do we find out? You know?
well, and maybe it was
I wish
already
we
in.
could. I don't know how we would find that out, because then it's almost like, okay, well, West Haven, you owe us some money back for that. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think, but I don't know how you go back and figure that out. Does anybody have?
Probably not though, because there's a lot of maintenance that's gone into that. He told me over the years, and he wasn't complaining, he wasn't being rude at all. He didn't say you owe us money. There-
Yeah.
Who's the he?
His name is John Wallace. I don't know if you know him, he is their,
Is what, West Haven's,
he is West Haven's Public Works Director, and he's over the sewer now. But he's been over this, I don't know how many years they've had this special district, at least since 2002, because they reference it in here, their sewer special district. But they did say, and he said, I don't expect her, but, you know, even though it says we were supposed to have been paying half of all of the repairs and expenses, he said, we don't expect you to come back and pay that now. He said, if we'll just keep paying our wheeling fee, but the problem is we need to do something sooner than later. We can't wait until we have 100 more homes. And we can't wait till 5100 west from 4000 to 33 is already built.
Yeah, I would hate to see us have to tear up a road we just put down.
But I suspect if we paid any on it, I don't know, it would be prior to 2002.
Yeah.
Because that's when this agreement was signed, so I don't know where we'd even go back and find financial records from that far. But I can't imagine, I think we probably would have owed them more for repairs over the years than probably we would have paid into it.
Yeah.
So who I met with today, it was John Wallace, Public Works Director, and Ed, I think it's.
were you by yourself meeting with them or?
Yeah, I'd gone over to another meeting, so then I went in and asked about this. And then I met with Cherie Sully,
So, yeah, let's see.
she's one of theirs, and she
Yeah,
just
Sully.
said, and I said, we need to have an invoice. I said, it's really hard for us to pay if we don't have invoices, and that's when she said, well, but I didn't know how many houses, and I said, well, they're the same now. Like, we don't have any new homes, so if you'll just send Morgan an invoice, then we'll always know. And she said they'll start sending them quarterly, so we have to make up last year's, and then we'll start doing them quarterly.
But I wonder if we even pay this $250 per connection fee per home.
Yeah, I don't know.
It says hopefully we'll pay the district a one-time connection fee of $250 per connection,
Yeah,
and then the $3 per month.
yeah.
Where's the records of that?
And there's 376 more homes than they've been said we could. Did we pay that? I don't know that we did. So I'm sure we owe
And
them more money.
Fix
than-
it, what do we do? And can't do another gentleman's handshake, you know?
Well, no, that's the thing, and we need a current, well, don't necessarily, well, I guess it depends on what council you want to do. We can continue with this. And then if we are going to continue with this, we need to get a new interlocal agreement written up. And from now on, we need to get our impact fee study done, so we know how much impact to charge. But just knowing, coming online within the next few years, we are going to have more houses, and we probably can't keep going into West Haven at that point.
So how do we know that line is eroding? Have they put a camera in it?
So he said they've already done some liner in it. Mainly they're going by because it's not that the line's corroding, it's from all the gas, those H2S gases. He said that they are replacing 4 of their manholes this year, because he said, and I think it's the same that Jared said, our manhole, like you could take a pen and push it through the concrete because the H2S gas eats the concrete. And he said they've already put liners in it but it didn't work. So they know there's that much gas, and he said they have weekly complaints from residents on that road that it smells. Have you? He said, well, but, and this is what he said, and Jared agreed. They're not saying that our sewage smells any worse than anybody else's. The problem is because because our sewer line's not to capacity, it doesn't push it all the time. So he said it sits. And when it sits, it becomes septic. Both Jared and their sewer director use the exact same word.
Makes sense. I mean,
And so that's why it's smelling, is
sitting.
because it's sitting. And he said, and so did Jared, that a force main is less expensive than doing gravity, but would want the engineer to look at that and do whatever is best, whatever we think. And I don't know if I've already said this or not, so if I did, I apologize. But Jared said we could run it to 4,000 now and just keep it in theirs because we have like a connection 4,000 to 33. But again, then we're going to put in a new road and then have to dig it up. And we don't know how long that would be. So I don't know. And best case scenario, if we can, would probably be just to run the 1 mile. It's about 1 mile of pipe.
Well, Mr. Jared is here. So the force feed, do we need another pump? Or will it actually
Okay, that-
function with that, with our existing pump?
Okay, that's such a good question, Bryce, because that's exactly what Jared said, why they'd have to have the engineer figure it out. Because if we have another force feed, they'll have to make sure that all of our current pumps, because he said, we don't want to do this and now have to replace our pumps because our pumps aren't big enough. So that's what they'd have to have the engineer figure it out. And then that's maybe a difference than why we would do the gravity fed one. He said the main thing about a force feed is you don't have manholes, because then it just forces it through. So then you don't have the smell, you don't have the H2S gases building up. So that's not a problem, but they need to make sure that works, that wouldn't need bigger pumps.
So the one line is from 3,300 south to about 4,200 south.
Yeah. He said the junction box is somewhere over there about record, if you know where Courtney.
Wow.
Yeah, if you go from
Yeah.
33 to 42, you're 9 blocks, so you've got a mile in one block. So, this isn't something we need to decide tonight, but it is something we need to decide tonight, if it is something we want to see about putting in next year's.
Let's
Budget
kind of
or-
maybe go through, like I said, me and Ryan sat down and reworked things and rethought and put our minds together and kind of reanalyzed things a little bit differently than the way we had it before in the last meeting, and both me and him feel like it's a much better outcome in the end. So maybe we could look and see what
Yeah.
I've come up with, and then that
Yeah.
might help us. I don't know. But is that okay if we?
Yeah.
look
Yeah,
at
I think
that?
so.
I mean,
I think
I'm just
so.
throwing an idea out. By all means, stop me if you want me to. Okay, so in all the funds, I will just point out real quick. We asked JUB how much it would be for an impact fee study. I'll be honest, it was more than I had remembered them being. They are saying it's 100,000 for an impact fee.
So are there
That's an
other-
estimate, that's not.
Yeah.
what other companies do impact fees? I know there's another.
Yeah, any engineering firms seem to do them. Any of the ones that do businesses, I think, what is that other one called?
Well, there's lots, there's like
Yeah.
Gardner, engineering.
Yeah, Gardner's is who I'm thinking of, but there's various ones. So I'll be honest, it was a little bit higher than what I had remembered them being, but it's been a hot minute since I've looked at them and seen how much they were, so.
And we do have that one grant that we can talk about after that he
Yeah.
said that could help with some of this. But well, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
that's,
that's in a different.
yes, we'll talk
place,
about
so.
it in a minute.
Okay, so I'm just gonna hone in on sewer. Cause I think that's the topic that we wanna discuss at this moment. So if I look at sewer and I add that 100,000 in. And then we do the improvements and add that additional employee that we discussed that we needed another employee. Also, we increased the wages for another employee. And then we've got the loan payment and the capital projects. We end up that we have, our total income is 2.1. Our expenses would be 2.966. So we'd have a decrease in our balance of 773. However, 525 of that is that fictitious kind of depreciation number that you're all comfortable with that, right? Or do I need to
I've
explain?
never been comfortable with
Okay.
that.
Well, comfortable with the theory, the accounting theory behind it.
Is it like,
Yeah, how it comes up to, yeah, that's
Can you
always.
just
an
briefly
argument.
explain that to me? Because I really
Yeah.
don't know that I even
So,
understand what that
What
is.
depreciation is, the easiest analogy I can think of is a truck.
Yeah,
Okay, so you have a truck, you buy it, I'm just gonna throw out a number of trucks are much more than this, but $50,000, okay? And you say that truck's going to last for 5 years. really that truck could last for 7. In our world, it lasts for 20, but in theory, accounting says that that truck would last 5 years. So the accounting standard says we don't take the full expense of that the year that we incur it. We only take 10,000 of that for the next 5 years.
Okay.
So then we're just expensing 10,000 of that for the next 5 years. Excuse me, even though we've spent 50,000 today. We don't actually have that, even though the cash flow's gone out, we don't recognize the expense. We recognize that expense over 5 years because that truck's in theory going to last 5 years. Okay, so that's what depreciation is.
And is that depreciation on our sewer?
Yes,
system?
that's on your sewer system, your infrastructure. And that's, and what we do is we guesstimate what we think it's going to be based upon our projection tables. And then when it comes to the audit, we get it to the dollar.
Okay,
But we just take what we think it's gonna be for the full year and accrue that every month.
So that does not include this new truck line.
No, no. So right now, we would be at a decrease of $248,000 in cash if we went with this budget. Now, here's the thing I wanted to kind of talk more about was this. Like I said, me and Ryan, we went through and we sat there and we said, how can we analyze this in a better way? And this is what we come up with. And this is part of one of the handouts I gave you. But on the sewer fund, I'll explain what I've got here. Is as of March, your unrestricted cash was this amount. This is your cash balance minus your expense or minus any payables that you have owing to people, okay? Other than the loan. And then we said, okay, our remaining income to come in, if we collect everything we've budgeted for, would be 399. Our remaining expenses, if we spent everything we've budgeted for, would be 308. So our subtotal is this 2.3. Then we paid part of the loan payment, but there is still 95,000 left to be paid on that. Because we pay a little bit. We pay a big chunk in one point, we pay a little bit another point in time during the year. So our total kind of unrestricted cash in theory would be 2.2 at the end of this year. So then we said, okay, what's our other income that we've budgeted for? This would be like your impact fees that we've budgeted for. This is what we are collecting for the sewer district. And of course, we just want to match that going right back out because whatever we collect for the sewer district, we're remitting back to them, okay? That's kind of a set in. And then we've got what our fee is going to be and then our expenses. We've got a subtotal. Then we say, these are the capital projects that we came up with Jared and we said needed done in that capital project sheet, which is all these ones that we've gone through. And then this is our loan payment. So this would be our total at the end of fiscal year 26. So based on this calculation, I said, this is what your residents are currently paying for their sewer. Okay, we know that the sewer district is saying they're gonna do a 6% increase, and we have to just pass that on to our residents. But what does us as a city have to implement as far as a tax or not a tax, but a user fee increase in order to maintain our cash balance, just to maintain it? We want to keep that cash balance where it's at today, okay? The thought being that if we had a major thing like this, we would have some cash to turn around and pay for it. Or if a major system failed, we would have some cash to pay for it. Is 2.2 a good number? I don't know. That's, you know, questionable. I have no idea. But is it kind of safe number? Probably, I mean, I'm just kind of, if you disagree or you think it should be higher or lower, this is where I want input. But basically, if I try and just keep that number steady over the next 5 years with our projected what improvements we needed to do and everything, if we do a 6.25% increase and only account for a 5% increase to or in our expenses, we will only have an $8,000 increase in our balance. Now, that is not including impact fees. So, we could collect additional impact fees and then we use those for increased capacity. But these these capital projects payments are really not going to, qualify for impact fees, is what I'm trying to say. Now, as far as impact fees and the other income, that is accounted for what we have this year. But if we had a bigger surge, I mean, this is just a real good, trying to get out the best estimate I can to try and say what, and I think you guys kind of guided me last time, that what would we have to do for our impact or for our increase every year in order to stay whole if we did these projects that Jared said need done into our system. And that's what I came up with. So at the end of 5 years, your residents would pay $83.06 a month, approximately. Now, does that mean we're not going to continue to monitor this? And as we have more people move in, maybe we don't increase that much this year or whatever. Yes, but this is just, I'm shooting from the hip, trying to give a best shot. Do you see what I'm saying?
So that fee would be called what?
This-
306, it would be,
So 26 of it, 2676 is your sewer district fee that you see on the bill that we broke out. Remember how we broke out that
Mhm.
sewer fee? That would be passed through to the sewer district. So whatever they charge us, we're just passing that through. We're just a billing mechanism for them, is all we're doing. But then this 5630 would be Hooper City's sewer fee. That would be what we keep to operate, maintain, and, change
loan
these.
payment.
Yeah,
So isn't the loan paid off in 2030?
I thought it was longer.
It's like,
No.
well,
Pretty sure, we have quite a few more years.
50 million, 600.
Yeah, it's part of
It'll be
it.
at least 12 more years because we only pay off about another million.
Which I'm not saying that in the future, we couldn't decrease rates. I'm not opposed to decreasing rates,
Who do we pay that to? Is it State of Utah, federal?
Mhm.
0%.
Yeah, it's 0%. So, yeah, we have 6.5 left on it, 550. Yeah. So,
In that calculation, you're presuming that this district's passing along 6% every single year.
yeah, which is kind of what we've
Which-
heard, but I don't
They're
know.
gonna pass on 6% every year.
That's
At
what
what
they're,
point do we, never know.
That seems crazy.
That's insane.
yeah,
Like, when is enough? Enough?
yeah,
Most utilities do go up.
6%.
6%.
Well, look at your
Now, if they come to us and they say, we're only gonna do 3,
Calm down.
we'll only pass on 3. I mean, we're not
No.
making money off of that section. We're not making money, period. But the point is that we're trying to just simply be their billing mechanism. That's all we're trying to do, is just strictly, money in, money out. We're just billing on their behalf is all we're trying to
What have
do.
they increased it for the last 5 years? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I'm sure we could go back and ask them.
So,
That would be
oh,
an
maybe it's
interesting
6%
thing.
every year.
Yeah,
That's it.
no. I
I'm
think
sure it's
maybe
not
that.
been. Yeah.
I could find out. I could call Camille tomorrow and ask. They would know. I know it went up last year because that's why we increased it. I know it does go up some every year, but I don't know what percent.
We go back like 6 or 7 years, I think the city kind of absorbed some of that
Oh,
increase
really?
because our sewer bill was already pretty high for the residents.
Part of that problem is, so I don't know that we necessarily have made to absorb it, because that's one of the very first things Teresa told me is we're going in the hole about $500,000 a year on our sewer. That's why we raised it last year. Do you remember Teresa came and had that sheet and she had it all spelled out?
But,
Because we weren't charging.
and
what we
that's
were paying.
also, it was hard to see, and Ryan, you kept putting this out before. It's so hard to see what's paying for itself, because we had all those utilities lumped together.
Yeah,
So we had stormwater, we had garbage, and we had sewer.
Well, we
So
know
they were all,
stormwater was something in the sewer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so we
Yeah.
kind of said, okay, we need to break this out, and yeah. You know, by breaking it out, I feel like we now understand what's paying for itself and what's not. So to me, I'm looking here and I'm saying, okay, if we had things okay, and I mean, correct me if you guys see it a different way, like I said, this is just my thought process. But if we need to spend 800,000 of this money, we could, knowing that in the future, we're gonna be getting that back. But then we're kind of almost like living on borrowed time for 5 years until we get that impact fee back. So do you see what interest rates
Where's
are?
it coming back?
Because of the impact fee,
then
the
we'll
new
charge.
residents, you can pre-spend the impact fees.
So you have to get your forms to get the money back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And by then there'll be different expenses we'll have to pay for
It-
anyway, so. That's
exactly.
something like that.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'm kind of stuck too.
I thought you said you're gonna give us some good news.
Well, the good news is that I only came up with 6%, because I'll tell you, it was a lot higher this
Yeah,
morning.
It really was.
It was not pretty. I
Last
warned
meeting it
Sherry,
was
I said,
higher.
this is not good. And then, like I said, I went back and I said, Ryan, me and you've got to sit down with me and Ryan Child and said, you know,
That's
you
right.
can see what I'm
It's
trying to do. Yeah, it's him.
So
My
Ryan-
Ryan.
Like-
You guys
Kinda
sat down
sense
together,
that.
right? No, it was Ryan Child. Oh, I thought it was you.
No, Ryan and Child, my
Kinda
boss.
sense
You've got them all full.
No,
So-
sorry,
Okay.
you did good, Ryan.
One thing,
Look over at you, I sensed it wasn't.
like Carmen said though, we only pass along, so next year maybe the increase will be 3, maybe it'll be 2. And it's a long ways away, but 13 years in theory, once our loan's paid off, then we don't have that payment.
But that's an awful long ways to.
What's it at
Yes.
3? I can't really see that. What's it at 3 years? Say instead of going out 5
At
years,
3
drop
years?
3 years and see where we're at.
1, 2, 3, so
Goes
we
at
would be
$4,
at,
$79.
$5, $4 to $5 a year.
And the total we have is that one.
that would be 1.8.
1.89 in 3 years.
Now, I
So-
can
so
figure
your
out
4
what
and
it would
5, you must
be.
have
We,
Capital projects in there, some big ones, right?
yeah, they do.
And
I
like that's
mean-
with replacing pumps, you know how Jared had mentioned about having an
Mhm.
extra pump. And there's a few other things too that we don't know yet. There's these filters that sit on top that stop the smell of it too, and we're having, he said, especially I think it's the main one, he said it's really bad. So they're gonna do a few tests and see if they don't know. One reason why they know there's a problem, we have a smell and we have like twice as many, that pump is running. Our electric bill is twice as much, so it's always running. So they really don't know what's causing that. So that's also an expense that he hasn't accounted for that we could have. And he called it something and he could better explain it as far as the filter system, but we know something's going wrong there because the pumps run way, and then the pumps run twice as much as they should, then the pump wears out when we need a new pump. So
Which one's that?
I think he said the main one. Is that the one that's down there on 5900? This one's the north and then there's the low that's on 6300. I think this is the one that's on about 5800. No, 5700.
We're
South.
talking vacuum, right, on 5900 west?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a little south of 4-way stop,
Uh-huh.
you said.
Yeah, that's the one that pumps running twice as much as it should be. So they're trying
And
to
that
figure
really,
out.
It's the smallest.
that's the small, yeah.
It's had no growth whatsoever.
That's why they don't know if it's the pump, if it's this filter system on top. Anyway, they're doing some little studies on that to try to figure it out. But I don't think those are counted. in there either.
I don't think he did, but. I'm
I mean, that's why I think it's good we had some money there.
So there's a lot of what ifs on here. So we're
Yeah.
just concerned really about, you know, this year, and then we'll look at it again next year. Instead of getting all wound up about
Yeah.
5 years, but obviously, if we look at it every year, then we can stay ahead of the curve, so. I think we
Exactly.
just focus on the next maybe 2-3 years. And then,
So do you wanna know what the increase would have to be to stay whole in the next 3 years?
sure, yeah.
I can calculate that. Cause not to,
When you say stay whole, so are you calibrating expenses longer than 3 years? I mean, I don't know why, if we narrow the time down, why it gets, you make it sound like it's a lot worse.
oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot worse.
Why is that?
Because of how
Inflation.
inflation,
and Things that wear out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
more projects to pay for,
Things that wear out, I can.
or more capital projects.
Mhm.
So one thing I really appreciate about Tammy is she's trying to get us on this 5-year plan, because what we should have done from day one with the sewer, but no one thought about it because it was brand new. We should have been setting aside so much every year saying for this, but you don't. Well, now Tammy's trying to get us 5 years in advance, so we will always have money to pay.
28% increase, right?
Okay.
Sorry.
8%, I can narrow it down to 3 instead of. How,
5. Yeah. To stay full.
That's
That's worse than I was at this morning. Sherry, because I was like, Sherry, I'm sick.
That's if we pay that much for all those capital projects. We got 400,000, we got 300,000, we got.
But if you go back to that list of capital projects, that's where Jared gave the list that he needed, and Tammy spread them out and said, what do you need this year? Okay, can this go for 2 more years? Well, you can go back to
so
Jared's
we're not
list.
pulling any
It's
other
this.
money out of capital projects except capital projects. We're not. That's where the money is.
So
You know,
capital projects fund is separate from sewer. Now, like I said, you guys have the option. Totally up to you as a council to say, let's use some of that capital projects money and let's transfer it to sewer,
Cause it's not earmarked, right? Capital projects
not earmarked.
as like.
It's
road
meant
fund.
for a big project.
Those numbers are not pulling that money from capital projects. That's
No.
just in our budget.
Yeah.
That's our fund money right now.
Yeah, because I like to present to you saying, this is what that fund needs to stay whole. Now, is it worth maybe in this situation where we have that, sorry, Sherry, I keep
That's
working,
okay.
but that project, that $800,000 project, is it worth pulling that? That's a decision you guys get to make. That's not, you know.
We understand what she means by staying whole, right?
Yeah, not going under.
Well.
Yeah.
Keep the money we currently have, we
Yeah.
have 2.3
If,
million.
if we're that far ahead, we wanna always stay
Stay
that far.
there.
So we, anyway, and I think maybe biofilters, I think that's what Jared was talking about, those things on
Oh,
the
so
top.
we may have,
So I think he has some to
he has
replace,
some maybe in there, yeah.
but then every year replace, because I think. Like he
But see,
has
we
that.
have a really big 700 or 407. And then we tried to kind of even things out, but this year we said, oh, look, we could go a little bit lower, but maybe get a Vector trailer
Vacuum trailer.
or, yeah, vacuum
And
trailer.
that's that bypass, that manhole bypass that
Oh,
he said
so you said a
can go through cement.
yeah, so a vacuum trailer would come out of,
In year 4, it would be included in that.
in the capital.
No, it's in
In
the
our budget.
sewer
Oh,
budget.
I see, okay.
Yeah, it's in the sewer because a Vector truck. Well, and I know a Vector trailer is the same thing. Or vacuum trailer. I call them Vector trucks. Anyways, well, even Twenty would tell you this, but once you use it in the sewer system, you really can't use it in culinary water. If you use it in that, it pretty much becomes impossible to clean it. So it's only, once you use it for sewer, it's for sewer. So, and right now, if you have something go down, you would normally call Twindy. Well, Twindy was just bought out. by somebody, and I don't know who, but basically the brothers sold out, and it's hard to get them here now. Although we may have connections in our local area.
Here's this, so he did really say, like, his Tammy would say, what absolutely needs to be done this year and what could you wait? So that's how she came up with this. To try to say, okay, this is what we need, but then if every year we're replacing a pump, then all of a sudden we're not trying to. And we have to have an extra pump because if a pump goes down, we're in trouble.
And I kind of said, okay, Jared, I'm asking you this, and he's like, well, I need it all right now, and I'm like, Jared, you can't have it all right now, just like a little kid, you can't have it. But does that mean your priorities might change next year? Next year, when we update this and we do our year 5, you might say, well, but year 2 needs this instead. You know, your emergencies are going to change, and I realize that, but this is our best guess at this point in time. So. And that's the best we can do, honestly, you know? And I realize prices may go up.
One of the big expenses currently is that control panel.
Yes.
218 for a control panel. Anything is gonna go out. And
And then we're in big trouble.
Most of our pumps, like I think he said when he was here before, if there's, and these might not be, but just a comparative, if they're supposed to have 10,000 hours, ours have 25,000 hours and they keep repairing them. So
Our whole system is on borrowed time is basically. what
Yeah.
I put out.
that's why this year it feels like there's more that we need to get, but there's more that has to be done. And that manhole, Jared said absolutely has to, and we did have a little bit of ARPA funds that we were using with that
But the-
deteriorated
yeah,
manhole,
but that's very little.
very little that was left. Yeah.
Don't give me that look. Well, we can move on, and then that might be an
So what-
answer if you
what do
want to
want
use
from
capital
us? Just
projects.
to- You're just showing us reality, so.
Yeah,
we're
so
making decisions.
are you okay? I mean, this is, if it's me, this is, right now, this is the budget I would present to you to approve. Do you have anything that you have heartache with, that when we came to that point, you wouldn't be able to vote for it, is what I'm saying. And if there is, then let's discuss it, let's, you know,
And
come up with
that's what you've got copies of this, so we can.
there was a few changes. I'm gonna give you updated copies, but in case there was changes tonight, I don't want to kill 2 trees, only one. So I'll reprint you a new copy after tonight, and you'll have a or I'll have Morgan print them, probably.
And
And
it's
you'll
our
have a brand new
second city
copy.
council
I was just
meeting
gonna
where we
say,
do approve it.
advantage of staying whole is that nice chunk of interest we collect every year from that money sitting in the banks.
Sure.
You know,
That's
it's
a very good point.
$120,000 that we're projecting this year just by collecting interest on it.
Mhm.
And if we go less than whole, we don't make that money.
And, you know, we try to keep money in the operating account as well as the PTIF, which the PTIF is usually a really good interest rate, higher than your normal banks. Is there a risk with that? Yes, there's always risk with that, but the PTIF is the state ran kind of pool money. So. The risk is minimal compared to if we went and invested it ourselves. That makes sense. So,
Yeah, so May 15th, so our second meeting in May, we'll adopt this tentative budget and then set the public hearing for the following city council meeting in June.
Can you just go down to the expenses again?
yeah.
On that page?
So yeah,
Our income was what, 2.2 almost?
yeah,
What's our expenses?
Our operating expenses at one, then our system maintenance, our equipment, our employees. So you're at 2.2, and then you've got your loan and your capital projects. So you're Because we're using fund balance, basically, is what we would say in town.
And that's because primarily of what capital projects. and
Those
what
capital
else?
projects. And,
additional employee,
yeah, the additional employee.
which was how much?
The additional employee. Let me just tell you how much that
55.
would be. Well, in theory, that additional employee cost us. No,
Mhm. Mhm. There's another 10,000.
That's including all the benefits.
So that's. That part,
47 plus the 100, it's 507. 2.9, 24.
so you're actually in theory at 700 negative. But if we take out depreciation, we're just using basically 248 cash. Ryan,
So
thinking.
depends.
Depreciation's at
It's tough.
In addition to increasing revenue. I mean, the way to balance a budget is to get rid of expenses, to decrease expenses. You know, and I'm looking at all those expenses and thinking, what could we take out?
Mhm.
Or what do we not absolutely need in all those expenses?
The utilities are kind of stuck. This is a pass through, whatever we charge there, we charge there. So that's a pass through. Bad debt expense, that's if somebody doesn't pay their bill, we have to kind of just have a little bit of money there. Sewer administration.
Which is what, why is that? 20,000 more than last year.
I don't know if it's exactly in there, but. I can tell you. That this year. We are already at 48,000 year to date. Wish I had my detail ledger.
So that's the question, right? What is
What
that?
are we
is going
paying
into that?
administration? And why is it going up that much?
You know what, if you give me 5 seconds, I'll go jump on the other computer and get it.
I'm just trying to. chip
Yeah.
away at something.
No, I agree. ARPA engineering is, I think, pretty much,
But why is it ARPA?
we had that ARPA income, so we just offset it with the expense, because we're just gonna use that funds. Which I guess in theory, we could reduce the capital projects by that much. Cause that's what we're gonna spend it on. Engineering,
So in engineering's. Is that JUB, that's only 20,000?
well, right now, we haven't allocated anything there,
So we've included
So-
100,000 for the impact study too.
yeah.
So what's the study for?
It's an impact fee study, so basically the state law says that you cannot charge well, you can't charge any impact fee without an impact fee study. And what the impact fee study does is it analyzes how much
We can
the
charge.
impact is for each of building lot.
It costs 100,000 to figure that out.
And like I said, I was a little shocked myself, and
I'd say we put
I
that
wonder
out
if
to
we
bid.
could,
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely say we need to put that out to bid.
And it may not be that much. He just said, when Jared just said, how much do you think it would be? Because we haven't done any of these studies since about the time we were a city. And he just, that's was just an estimation. So it could be 100,000.
In 25 years, we don't have a study now all of a sudden we do.
Well, the other thing is, here's the other kicker, the state auditor has really come down on this. That if you are collecting an impact fee and you do not have a current impact fee study, they are going to hit you. And they're going to say, you cannot spend that impact fee money on any impacts that
Just
are
all of a
not
sudden
in
they
your fee.
decided that.
They decided that last year and we kind of skirted, and
So what
Yeah.
they've said with this though, Ryan,
I
is,
know.
is our impacts are so low. So say for instance, we haven't done, which this is the fact, we haven't done a study now for 20 years, even beyond that. So say if our sewer impact fee is, we're saying it's 1,000, but the impact's actually 3,000, maybe it's 4,000. We're losing out on 3,000. So they said, even though you pay for an impact fee study, which seems like an expense, which it is, you make back that money really pretty quick. We haven't done it on parks. We don't even have a road impact fee currently. We don't have a storm drain impact fee. So we're not even collecting those monies, and people like today, they said, man, well then go build in Hooper, they're in charge an impact fee where most cities do, and we're not. And we should be. And we haven't updated them to even know if we're anywhere within where the range should even be.
We can do
It's
what-
so frustrating, I
I
know.
remember Dan writing a $15,000 check when I built my home 13 years ago for impact fees. So that went to something. We collected impact fees for something.
Yeah, which we do collect some.
Yes.
But, the price of bread has gone, well, the price of eggs. I mean, has gone from $1 to 20 some odd. I'm gonna have to sleep in my chicken coop coming up.
We
With a
don't know
gun.
what we should be charging without doing, and like I said, we don't have a road or a storm drain, we don't even charge that. And which we should be. Because then we'd actually have money when we're doing some of these road projects, like for instance, 5100 over there, all those new homes moved in, now they need that road. Then if we would have had an impact fee,
Increased
we
capacity.
probably would have had money in the fund, we could have used that, well, we don't. So we pay $100,000 for a fee or for a study, but we have collected 300,000 off those homes that are now all those well meadows.
I still think. it
I
should
would,
go to bid.
oh, 100%, 100%. That should go up for bid. Like I said, that's just a number I could get now,
Yeah.
that's the best I could
That was a
get out of it.
guesstimate.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so.
But
let's-
yes, I 100% agree. If our bid comes in at 50, sweet, we are better off,
Yeah.
What's
by all
merchant
means.
fees?
Merchant fees, that's the credit card fees to collect credit card payments from residents. All the credit card companies charge you a merchant fee. And so we allocate that based upon what's billed each month.
Where is that all the expenses for the general fund? And on that page right there.
This
For
is
the
for the
sewer.
sewer fund.
Oh, that's the
Yes.
sewer. Okay.
We're in sewer. Yeah, we're still in sewer. We haven't made it past that. So. Training, I think we're actually low on that.
When software go up 13,000.
Software, I believe we've got some, different, what is it, the subscriptions that we are not paying for and we're gonna be required, is what I've been told.
And there's
And right
some- is it the
now,
GIS, what is it, that program that the sewer had? When they redid the cemetery, but there was something that the sewer already had, there's something they have, and is it the GI?
No, GIS is a software, but I know it supports sewer, but it also supports other.
yeah, right now,
Functions.
6,000.
Seems like a lot for software in 1 year.
Yeah, we could definitely try to decrease it and see if we can live with it.
But I mean, there's 4 categories. I'm saying, why are they so much more,
Mm-hmm.
No,
Let's maybe bump that down.
And what have we spent so far this year?
We spent 6,000, so maybe just over 6,000, so maybe 65.
But we've
That's
spent
great.
6,000 already, and we still have another quarter to go.
Mhm.
So it probably is gonna go up more than, if you take 6,000, that's 1,500. When we,
800, 8,000.
so 3/4, we've spent 2,000 a quarter. We still have another quarter to go.
Yeah, so then we do about 8,000. Supplies and postage, I put that down. I think a lot of that is the fact that we are allocating things more into all the funds. We had 82, we've gotten down to. On our liability insurance. Is at 23.9 so far. Which I don't anticipate that going down, unfortunately.
Do we pay it quarterly or monthly?
It's a yearly fee.
Okay.
I'm still down a little bit more.
Absolutely. And this is just what we've had in the past, minus the system maintenance. I kind of decreased those, hoping that some of that would be the maintenance part. You know, the big capital projects would help with that maintenance. Not be so high. But then again, I don't know, we could have something big happen. I'll be honest, budgets are my least favorite thing to do as an accountant, because it's not an exact science.
So again, the depreciation, we've added it in there as an expense,
Mhm.
then at the bottom, we've taken it out.
Yeah, because it's not actual cash flow. I was looking at cash, what were we reducing our cash, not necessarily our fund balance, so. The state auditor says we have to put depreciation in up here. So we'd be there, but then I'm saying, okay, that's not actual cash going out. So our actual decrease in cash would be 240.
We do that every year.
Yeah, we do.
Health insurance is going up double.
It's going up pretty heavy. We got the exact dollar amounts. Plus you've got another employee. You've got 2 employees there. And I assumed worst case scenario on that employee that they would have family insurance. So. Yeah, I assumed and I beat that.
So we got an actual figure for that, or we're just guessing?
We have an actual figure for what the insurance is.
So
gonna be.
let's shop around. I shop my insurance every single year
No.
because of that reason.
Mhm.
We can, I don't know that we'll get much better than PHP though, because that's the states and it's. You have hundreds of thousands of employees on it.
So I know other cities, I'm hearing about a 15% increase on some of them. I've heard 8%.
15%,
When I heard 15.
ours is 100%.
Well, but you got another employee. You added a full-time employee. Is what I added.
But our
So-
share for one employee would only be
Our share for one
8,000 to
full-time
10,000.
employee for the full year. For that person would be 23,954. That's the city's portion of that.
oh.
Well, that doesn't seem right, but it is.
It is.
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah. I mean, insurance is just it's brutal.
I appreciate.
Yeah, you just have options. Like, really,
Yeah, if you look
4,
at
5,
like
6
the real
different
cost,
options.
it's like if you go on, you
Yeah,
know, public websites and see people's salary, that's what it is.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
and the 44 should be that shot.
Yeah.
yeah,
200
Yeah.
a month, right, or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah,
whatever it is.
One thing too about, I feel like our employees, municipalities and state, they don't always make as much money as they maybe could other places, but they have good benefits. So that's one option, you know, and that's sometimes why people stay then with the state or with the city. Maybe they don't make as much money, but they do get the benefit.
So what's the other open position there? above that?
Luke's.
that's
Luke.
Luke that just left. And I just kept it at his rate.
Yeah.
So we have that open position and we have a sewer person,
How much food?
a sewer and then Luke's
A Luke
open
replacement.
position.
That we've already hired.
Have we?
No.
Oh,
No.
I was gonna say, I haven't retired for it.
It's been open, we've been advertising
For,
Luke just left,
oh,
not ours, but he's from.
Yes, but-
group. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, NISBA. He's on my board, I should know that.
Well, it's not a new position. then.
No,
We're just filling it.
no,
We're just
it's just
filling
an open position, then this would be a new position.
We have talked to if there was any about getting some seasonals, you know, we have had seasonals in the past. We do have Ken, who's a seasonal, that helps mow the lawn. I don't know if we have Ken listed there. We've talked
Okay.
about maybe getting a retiree that would be willing to go
Work the
work
arena.
the arena, maybe an hour a day. That might be something, maybe somebody to help extra, maybe with, like during tomato days, sometimes they would have a seasonal that would come and help, but we haven't accounted for that yet. Can we have? I mean, Ken's one that comes back every summer. and he-
So I did account for 10,000 overtime for your public works guys in case of snow. And then for your parks guys, I accounted for 5,000 just. Cause it seems like you always need a little bit of overtime with those two departments. Or, you know, again. I'm shooting from the hip, cause that's.
Well,
what
we're on
budgets are.
employees, Cammy, do you want to explain what we kind of talked about? Have you had those ideas? with-
Yeah, so basically, we looked at what the state website said. And based upon the state website. For the consumer price index. We are seeing about a 3% raise. In cost of living, so that's what we're recommending, is a 3% cost of living raise. And then we were looking at merits. And these, of course, are optional, they're not guaranteed. So that it would be based on the employees, you know, performance. But we said, what would be the absolute most we would look at giving them? So our annual increase would be a 2%. And then we said anybody that made under $30 an hour, maybe they would get more like a 3% increase. And that, in effect, I mean, minus these two, don't look at these two because they're not really hourly. But that, in effect, gives all the employees these raises possible. So it gives everybody at least $1 increase an hour. And then this would be per paycheck and this would be per paycheck. And those ones would not be able to, those are just the 2% and the 3%. But, I mean, if we wanted to play with those and say, what if we push that down or something? That's definitely.
One thing we wanted to talk to you about too, that some cities do and we never have, is they've given them like a clothing, like they will maybe buy a pair of boots for them, or, you know, some cities will have a shirt that we never done that, but we didn't know if that's something we might be able to build in, maybe a couple of $100 allowance, that if they buy, I mean, this is what our clothing allowance has always been, we've given them leftover Hooper Tomato Day shirts. And again, we don't pay, city employees don't get paid really that much. So some of these perks are, you know, that maybe would be a $2,000 period for everybody that you could give, or we even said 3,000 that everybody could maybe, like the workers could get a couple of $100 that they could possibly get a pair of work boots, maybe a couple of shirts, a sweatshirt. So, but that would just be a one-time a year.
How do you monitor that, though, to make sure that money is spent on those materials instead of lunch?
So a lot
I
of,
usually have them turn in those receipts.
yeah,
Turn the receipt
They
in.
pay for
Well,
it.
So it's a reimbursement.
yes, or
Yes.
sometimes you even have, like
Well,
some,
I've seen it in Minnesota's, but.
and some cities will even have like a website that they say you can go to. It's time now for you to order this, here's this website, and then they have to turn their order, they would turn it into like Morgan, and Morgan would order this stuff. So it actually would know it would only be spent on that and not just something else, but that might be a nice perk too. Because some of our employees, even with a raise, really aren't getting paid all that much money. You know, another thing we've talked about with Jared as well is maybe offering a CDL class. Because we only have a couple of employees that even have their CDLs.
There's two, Jared
I
and
can see that.
And if
Yeah,
you
I
have,
can see that, providing them the training they need.
Yeah.
make them worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they come, there's places that will actually come to your work and do it, that we could train them all rather than sending them individually to a school. That we thought that is a perk that maybe we could offer to the employees, which again
Which,
is something we
You
probably
know,
should.
I mean, one question I have is how long are we gonna stick around with one truck that only requires a CDL, you know? Chances are we're gonna have to move into some bigger plow trucks that require CDLs eventually. You know, so that would be a good thing to help our employees to have that CDL.
I have to
Definitely
think if
value.
that's required, or if that's something they would want to do.
I think you can give them the
Yeah.
option to do the class, but
Well, for example, like.
There's class A and class B,
Mhm.
and I think, I can't remember which one's higher.
class
It's
A,
class A higher. So the class A, you have like a semi or a trailer. But if you have a class B, you're just able to
Big
drive like a
equipment.
large dump truck. So maybe we just. A class B's, I don't think would be that difficult to get. Most cities require
Yeah.
all plow drivers to have them because they're doing 10-wheelers or skips or, what are they called? There's another name, but anyways, a 10-wheeler basically. So, yeah. I'll just kind of move on and,
So think of that, because we need to know what you're thinking about as far as the cost of living in that. So when Cammy does the budget, this is still just something you call it the preliminary in
Yeah.
May.
yeah.
So we kind of have to know, we can still make changes, but some of these things.
But
we
for the
already
most
know.
part, we want to have it there. And the
Yeah.
idea of these meetings is so that when you come to the council meeting, you've seen it, you know this budget as well as, us, and you're not sitting there, oh crap, If you have questions, great, let's talk about them. But the idea is hopefully we can just say, yeah, we all know the budget, we're good with it, or no, I really didn't get my concerns met.
One other thing to throw out too, while we're talking about it, was just an idea, what they said at the sewer meeting is they pay like we do 90% of the insurance and the employees pays 10, but when they reach 10 years, the city pays 100%. And that kind of is encouraging longevity and our employees to stay. We would only have, we figured 2 employees, and we're not saying do all of this year. These are just some ideas to think about. But that could also be another perk, if maybe, if they reach their 10-year mark, we pay 100% of their insurance. And that encourages our employees to stay too.
That's a heck of a perk.
Yeah.
I don't even get that.
Yeah.
I know.
Some cities
Some
do.
employees don't get that.
So on the retirement, on the state retirement, do they have a 401k or anything like that?
So
Or is that just?
it's what level you're at. So the state has, the URS has some different tiers. So you have tier 1 employees, which I don't remember exactly what year it switched, but it was like,
13 years ago. My wife missed that month.
she,
Something like that.
no,
dang it.
So anyway,
Oh,
he's still holding on to the
please,
grudge.
I don't blame you, ouch.
it's probably gonna have 12.
Yeah, so anyways, the tier 1 is the very rich one, it's the good
Right.
one, it's the one that everybody wants, okay? So basically, when you retire, you get 2/3 of what your 3 highest years were. And there's some adjustments, of
Right.
course, but the theory is you get 2/3 of that wage. As a pension, and for the rest of your life, or, your spouse, depending on what you decide. Anyways, so that's kind of the tier 1 rich one.
So if these employees were here at that point, they would.
They're
that's-
on
they're
that.
on that.
And I think we
Yeah,
only
or
have-
if you worked for
Jared,
a government
somebody else.
entity.
I think
Like-
Jared's the only one on tier
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, like if I went back to work for a city, I would get
I don't
that
think
because
so.
I was on that before.
I could be
So
wrong.
then you
I
have your
could be wrong.
tier 2.
Mhm.
Your tier 2 is 2 options. You have either the pension plan, which is not nearly as rich as what it used to be, but it is also supplemented with a 401k. And part of what you put in is 401k. In fact, I have it all right here, the
So
rates.
does that come out of this, the matching part does not.
We
come out?
don't
We
match.
don't match.
Because for
No.
city, that's if ever we have
Yeah.
that, would be really nice to match. But the tier 2 is 1.5, so like she said, tier one, it's like 2% of how many years. If you work 30 years, you get 60%.
Mhm.
The tier two is only 1.5 times however many years, and then but we don't match.
No, but we're required to put some money
Uh-huh.
into a 401k instead of. Them getting the higher pension, they get a little bit of 401k as well. But, so they get either that option or an employee can choose pure 401k and no pension. They get that option. They have to designate that when they within the first year.
Isn't that the hybrid?
Mhm.
So the-
That's the hybrid. Yeah. So that's what your options are. And these rates are what the employer pays, and so every year they are adjusted. And then police officers and firefighters are a whole nother kit and caboodle, but we don't worry about that right now. So,
We certainly don't have money, I don't feel like, to match a 401k, but we maybe had money, we could say we wanted 3,000 set aside for a clothing allowance, or I don't know, or the CDL, I think is a good thing that we could
yeah, I really like
offer.
that CDL option.
Maybe I want it.
Yeah.
What are your two thoughts?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, CDL, I think is a good thing. You're improving what that employee's worth. And it doesn't wear out like it should.
What does that cost? Sense of it?
I don't know.
We would have them come and do it here because it was several
Say
thousand.
class, to send them to a school to do the class was like $3,000 to $5,000 for one person, but if we can get someone here to do the training for everybody, it was like 1,500 per person. So it was a huge,
That's what we were trying to do, is have them come here and just, he's in, they bring them, they bring.
They bring the
trucks.
trucks.
Equipment,
Yeah.
here, there, so.
So, I mean, I'm in favor of the 3% COLA.
Yeah.
The others, I don't know yet.
Okay.
So I don't know about you, Ryan.
Well, my question with that is how and who determines their performance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm like.
I mean, there's so many variables in that.
There is,
It's just a crapshoot.
totally.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
in favor of the 3% also,
That's.
but the rest, I would have to see a plan to determine performance before I on board to that.
You would certainly want evaluation of forms, and it would be their direct supervisors, like the roads and sewer, and so there's four. We have with Jared, there's four, but anyway, we'd have to have some method and do interviews and do merits with that, so.
Okay, well, let's move on, and we can certainly come back and tweak that. I'm not opposed to tweaking things. for
And I'd
sure.
be in favor for the clothing allowance too, maybe not quite $2,000, so that's a lot of clothing.
Well, that's not for each person, that would be worthing like 200 a person.
Oh, okay. That'd
Which would be a pair of boots.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, 200, we were saying 3,000 total. for the whole
Yes,
city.
yeah.
Oh, no,
go buy me a new
Yeah.
wardrobe.
no,
You know, I mean, like,
no,
I've been the recipient of those, and when I've had the option to go out and buy things, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna shop around, I'm gonna get the best deal I can and get the most for that allowance. Whereas I think if I'm only given a one website, it kind of doesn't give that option. but-
I like the idea that they can bring the receipt in and get.
Yeah, they can turn it
Yeah,
receipt in.
yeah, it's a reimbursement.
Smith and Wesson.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If they want a certain pair of boots. There you go. Yeah. But then again, how do you know they are
Instead
buying?
of
Boots.
clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so if you want accountability,
Yeah.
Turn it receipt.
yeah, so, and I think you'd have better favor with IRS. It is more management, so. Okay, so I'm just gonna start at the general fund and, by all means, stop me if you want me to. Or maybe, you know what, let's sneak to garbage real quick, since we're in enterprise funds, let's just finish enterprise funds. You don't have that many of them.
We're going with
Sorry.
that.
It should be in your binder, and it really hasn't changed a whole lot. Others,
Towards the back.
garbage, sorry. So right now, we are charging $13.50 for a first garbage can. $9 per second and additional. And then recycling is $7.50. And then this is the amount of people that we have doing it. So right now, we are collecting about $726 total for the year, which is pretty close to our current year budget, just a little bit higher. However, if we continue on track with that, with the expenses that we've had and the additional tipping fees we'll need to account for to get through to the end of the year, we would have an additional $153 in expenses. And so I think our garbage is going to about break even this next year, at the end of this year.
You decided you're putting that out there as well, or?
I think our
Think we talked
decision
about
is, yes, we were going to try and get bid. The big kicker is garbage cans. And
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that is a huge deal, because we don't own our garbage cans.
Right.
So we would have to
Yeah.
buy a bunch of
Where
garbage
do we
cans.
store them? Who,
So every company but Waste Management requires you to buy a can.
Yes, at least Robinson and Republic do. So, and then another input is if you're looking at garbage cans, you buy them out of Mexico, they fall apart. You buy them up here, whatever that place is, they're a lot better quality, but I'm not saying that's the only option. I just know from experience. With another.
Yeah, but when you're, I was just at utility, but they weren't at their booth.
They weren't.
They weren't, so I will call them, and I did call up to Providence because they do their own, but you have to buy the garbage trucks, and you have to, but they were buying them from Logan. Because Logan was switching, so they got them for a good deal,
Mhm.
but no, to buy each new garbage can, they were about $5.
Yeah. Garbage cans, they're about 65 to 75, I'd say.
And, so Providence has their own, what is Logan?
They went with Waste Management, they signed like a consolidated, there were several of them that did, but Providence felt like they could do it less expensive to do their own.
You'd almost have to have a full-time mechanic.
Yeah, well, and they
Yeah.
hired, they contracted out someone to come and actually do to go around, they said it takes them about a week now. To do that, where before,
For Providence?
this for, and Providence is about the same size
I
as
was gonna
ours.
say,
Yeah.
takes them a week to do
To
2,000.
go around, to do it.
Oh, pretty good.
And I have a question. So on these pass-through endings like garbage and sewer, we have associated with them employees' wages and like
Mhm.
all that stuff. So are those, like on this one, it's 18,000 for garbage.
Mhm.
Is that accounted in your figures? To make it go, to make it a true pass-through, so those, so that 18,000 is going into the increase.
Yes,
So it's a true pass-through, so we're not absorbing these funds from somewhere else.
no.
Okay,
So on this, basically what we've been told is that we are looking about a 5% increase for garbage and about a 5% for tipping. So we do need to increase our fees in order to absorb that increase. So I did a calculation here and I said, if we take our current garbage rates and added a increase of 10% for regular garbage and 15% for recycling, where would that put our fees? And I ended up with the first can would be $14.85, the second can would be $9.90, and the recycling can would be $8.63. I don't know about you guys, but if I answer a phone, I don't want to have to say those numbers. So I rounded them. I said, okay, let's do 15 and let's do 10. And then let's just round that to 9. If we do that, we are $28,000 ahead this year. Now, maybe next year, if our fees go up, we wouldn't do as high, we would absorb some of it, but
So we don't even know what the increase is yet. We're
we don't
just
know
saying,
for sure. We just have to do our best guess at
Why
this
can't we
point.
call it that?
Because we're kinda at the point, well, this is what our contract says they can.
We have the
increase it.
tipping fee for
Yeah.
sure, because we've already gotten those.
See, what?
It's already gone up.
Okay.
And Blake, when I talked to him at Waste Management, he said that's what they have.
Who's the salary and wage? Am I missing something? Yeah, who's the salaries and wage?
So we
What employee is
basically,
that?
we basically said, it takes somebody to bill. Why is like the sewer fund and the stormwater fund absorbing part of the billing? So we basically said, we really should be allocating, and again, this is up for discussion by all means, but we basically said, some employee has to go through and do some billings. I mean, they need to,
We just took markets and split it. into-
yeah, exactly. We took Monica's and we basically said, you know, garbage, you need to pay maybe 5% of Morgan's. That would make sense. And then we said 30% because we split Monica's out to say sewer, garbage and stormwater.
Hmm.
So that's how we came up with that wage, because somebody's got a bill for it, and is it fair for the other entities to have to absorb the whole thing? So that was the approach we took. I'm definitely open if you think that those changes will be changed.
Yeah, it looks like we have an employee collecting garbage, but we really don't. We have an employee.
Billing.
for garbage.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, which is very confusing, I get that, but you know. We have to do some billing.
When does the contract start with waste management? Is it a fiscal or is it a?
No, and what happened last year after we had already raised our fees, then we got the letter and it was like the middle of July. It said our rates are going up and we had already increased our wages. So we didn't even account for the increase last year because we didn't get the increase until after we'd already increased them. And that letter came through about July 15th.
So why in the world can't they let us know a month earlier than they do already?
I know.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's so frustrating. This is what I go through every day with budget. It's like, I hate it. Hate it.
Say, hey, we're trying to do our budget by June, whatever. Surely you guys know what's going on next month. Why couldn't you give us?
Tell
time?
us.
And they say it's usually that he's the one that gave that estimate. That's what.
Yeah, that's what we got
Another
from them
thought we
asking
could do
that.
sometime, which I got this from Plain City, I saw. So Plain City does a green waste, and because they posted on Plain Cities that instead of having to raise their tipping fees, they actually already have a green waste where people can drop off, because a lot of people fill their cans with grass and all of that. And so the Far West mayor had posted and said that Plain City was letting them, so it's free for Plain City, but for Far West residents, they were letting them have like a pass card, they could go there. Well, that's a little far for us, but maybe that's something we really should look at sometime with Hooper, is maybe we could have a green waste drop off. Then our tipping fees wouldn't continually keep going up. And I think our residents would really appreciate that.
What would we do with the green waste? What
So I
happens
called-
with that?
Yeah, I called the Plain City mayor, but we've been playing phone tag and I drove out and looked at it. I don't know, but theirs is only open on Saturday for a few hours, so they have a person that comes. Then I compost maybe, and then you give it back to it. I don't know.
So the
Right?
actor
Well, they haven't
residents
done
for comment.
Plain City don't, which by the way, collect it, so we have to have a place to collect it.
Yeah,
And then-
we would have to have
Right. If you're making post and then
Exactly.
Yeah, so that might not be, but something. maybe in the
loader
future
and-
we could look
yeah.
in to see, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of manure around here too, but yeah,
you-
I agree.
Yeah.
The gold.
I feel one of my counties.
Interesting to know what they
But
do.
yeah.
I know.
Or how-
Yeah, yeah, it would be
And I
interesting to look
Say
into
we've been
it,
playing
'cause-
phone tag, because when I saw that, I called to say, what do you do? I mean, what do you do with it?
I'll be
So-
honest, I feel guilty every week when I fill that, those garbage cans full of manure and it's
Bring
just
it to
going
my
to the
house.
dump, you know, but yeah.
What
No,
kind
no,
of Horse or cow?
horse and chicken.
Put the horse on file, I'll come get it.
Well, just tell me when you want some. Just tell me when you want it.
I need something in the garden.
Just tell me when you want it. You come down, I'll load you up. We'll talk. We'll talk, Brian.
Good stuff.
It's mixed with, it's mixed with shavings. We'll talk. We'll have a discussion.
Sounds
You take care of my husband with the postage. We'll take care of it with the chickens. So,
And I can
Yeah,
call
it
Blake
is.
too and see, Ryan, if he can give
Yeah.
us a better estimate than just a 5%. I mean, that's what they say. Well, it usually goes up 5%.
I don't remember that one, 5% every year.
yeah.
But,
Well,
you know, when we're saying 6% every year for sewer and 5% every year for garbage, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But I thought we locked in for a few, I thought we locked in a contract for a length of time. I don't think we reviewed that every year.
the 1 year, I know the city just said they would eat it, but then later than the next, we realized, no, we really didn't have the money to eat it, and it had gone up 10% that year, and I think that was
Hmm.
2023, when
Right.
it went up 10%. But, so,
And, I'm not opposed to even saying we don't do the increase till, August, and then we find out exactly what we're at, and then we don't have to do as much increase, great. We budgeted worst case scenario,
Right.
because if we don't budget enough, then we have a problem as well as budgeting
Yeah, we
to,
can budget it, but then actually do the increase when we know what it's gonna be.
yeah, you can definitely say, okay, yeah, we'll take this budget, but the fees are a different resolution, so we just say, okay, we want to have that fee effective this date. And we give everybody a month
Try to
extra,
find that
or,
okay.
yeah,
Same with sewer increase.
we
Well, the
could do
sewer,
that.
we already know.
The
know for
sewer, we
sure it's
have a
going up
6%.
6%. They've already
Yeah.
told us that.
Yeah, they have told
Yeah.
us, that's
Yeah,
a firm,
their
Curb
impact is
number.
going up too, but that is again a pass through.
any questions on garbage? Have we? Good with that? Okay, I'm good to move on to stormwater. 20 months, going twice.
Yeah, I had a thought, but it's
Okay.
complicated.
Okay.
Why don't we just charge the same amount per can? Whether 1, 2, or 3.
I'm not opposed to that. They do charge us differently.
Do they?
The sewer, or not the sewer, the garbage company does charge differently based upon what can, but some cities do that. So,
So one of the things you have to collect what you pay back to. Like our sewer, like we can only collect, but then give it all back, like it's garbage the same way. You can only charge what Waste Management charges us.
no, well, that's what our goal is.
So-
That's why we broke it out into its own fund. Is that it's not necessarily intended to make money, but it's an enterprise fund. State law doesn't prohibit you from making money in it. But that's not really our intention, that's. The
So the
government.
tipping fee actually went down this last year.
Mhm.
They're going up a lot more to make up for it, it looks like.
Yeah, the tipping
I
fee,
thought they were making money. I thought they were at the point where they were.
There's a few new improvements that they've done. They're now having 2 places where you take it. There's going to be 2 gates, the way you go in and out. A lot of people have been trapped on the train tracks or on one side, not on the train tracks themselves, but on the other side. So they came at our WACOG meeting and it explained when he passed out, would I give that to Tammy, what the tipping fee is going to be.
That's strictly based on the weight, the tonnage.
and again, if you have less heavy stuff, then. I guess we could weigh everybody's cans, no. Charge them based on that, if that's the case, so. Okay. Stormwater, we had talked about doubling the collection fee. With the idea that we would spend the ARPA money, remaining ARPA money, and the interest. Income. It makes us at 514. Then we have our stormwater expenses. I broke it out more than what we previously had it. Again, we have that 100,000 impact fee study that I've added in there.
That's in addition to the other one.
Each impact.
Each
study is
impact
about-
fee, I know, I know, Ryan, I was like.
But
So
again, that's.
we're gonna
just-
bid
was
that
a
for
guess.
sure. I
That
would
was a
not,
throw number.
I would not feel good at night if we did not at least bid that, cause that's just. Yeah. And then we have some employee wages, again, the thought that an employee is charging for it. Yeah, the things in blue are not on your sheets, sorry. We've,
Yeah, so-
or maybe have made some change.
You look at those salaries and wages for that employee, that's what I know they're on here, what employee is this, then you go back, what employee is this? You add all that up and see what employee is making that much to bill people.
For stormwater, that employee is not only your billing, but also with your new stormwater requirements.
Mhm.
Thank you, state and SWIP. You now are going to need, Jared's going to be spending about 10% of his time, we said there. Morgan was just a 5%. We had Monica at 40%. We could definitely change that maybe a little bit. We felt like we were gonna have Cody having to spend some time there. And then Malcolm is going to spend some time there. So those are your employees that you're looking at. Again, if you want to see something different, please, let's play numbers.
We went through with Jared and talked about what employees that he thought broke it down, because before we didn't. So we felt like it was better to have those categories broke down, so stormwater is separate and sewer.
Which, keep in mind, up until this year, we had all the utility fees all in the one category. So we kind of already had it, but when we broke it out, we didn't budget for some of the employees. Thanks.
Are they the same? When it was all one, was it the same amount as if they're broken out?
I have no idea. I would have
See,
to go
that's-
back and calculate
Is it,
that. Yeah.
that's,
I wouldn't dare answer that, but I do know you. It was like this year, pretty much. The allocation of wages was a lot different than what we all went through and said, okay.
and again, this is something we're not looking at, this is something.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't
this
have
is
the
something
change.
that and I'm happy to send it to you. It's just quite a large spreadsheet. I don't know how I would print it. I don't think I printed it for.
Well, the
Is
difference
it in
we
there?
just did is it was
No.
100%
the breakdown.
were employees, and now it's just you take that 100% and you give different employees a percentage. So they'll still come up. We're
Mhm.
still coming up with the
Overall,
percentages.
your wages did not change other
Yeah.
than the cost of living or whatever, but it's just how it's allocated out. How it's portioned out to each department.
So for FY 25, our income matches our expenses. For budget, correct?
Yeah.
For FY 26,
Are you in stormwater?
Yep.
Yeah,
305 income. Expenses 959 because of the 5900 project. So that decrease of 654, are we taking that out of capital projects?
no, right now we're taking it out of cash balance. So if we, again, I did this unrestricted cash. If we double the amount that we're collecting this year. We come down, we'll have an increase in cash balance of 636, which would allow us to make another big capital expenditure. The only capital expenditure we right now have budgeted is that 820.
So on that 820, I have some big issues with that.
Oh, no.
On the cost of that, there's probably, I bet 200,000, it's not materials.
Okay,
Cause our agreement was,
so maybe we need to
materials.
decrease it by,
what, yeah, well, I just don't
I
want to
don't-
budget and say, hey, we're gonna pay for that. I don't wanna commit ourselves to
No.
that, because there's mobilization is not a material.
And,
That was a big one.
yeah,
I agree.
That was a big one, and whoever's gonna stand up and hold the sign to stop
that's-
and to go.
I mean, if it's rock or pipe,
Yeah.
Don't we have a guy that's
Those kind of
certified to do
things.
that? Maybe one of our guys could do it.
And I know it's an estimate, it's
Yeah.
from JUB,
I know.
it's an estimate.
I'm just going with what I
But
was given.
when Taylor, or Tyler, whoever,
Taylor.
Tyler, when he
Taylor.
came, he kind of indicated that this was our responsibility, but I disagree 100%. But anyway, so I'm just saying that 820
Mhm.
figure,
So maybe we
there's
should
some
decrease
room in
that.
there. You know,
Yeah,
and I don't wanna.
And I'm not-
Get committed to it like we
Yeah.
budgeted.
should we
So-
budget for less? And then if we need to, we can always amend the budget. That's the thing. This is not have to be, this is all we're doing. We can amend the budget. It is a little bit of a process, but it can be done and it's done all the time.
One thing that Jared did mention, and I think, I don't know if he's told you this or Taylor did, but this actually is our project that. I can't remember his name now, is
Justin
helping us
Nelson.
with. And so instead of it being his project that we're helping with, this is actually our project that he's agreeing to pay part of it.
Okay, see, that's the part there too, because he didn't have to put in a detention pond because it was already full of water. And he got another lot. Out of where that detention pond would have been, and so that's what kind of. You know, that's what catapulted this plan.
There
So
wasn't
it's
anything
not-
our doing, it was his development
He-
that
Yeah.
triggered this,
Mhm.
so.
So he benefited from it. It's not like, I mean, and we will too, but I don't want it to look like he's doing all of this for us because he did get something out of this.
So maybe he needs to
Just
pay
in
more.
this, right? That's what we're talking.
Yeah, I don't know, this was before my
Right,
time,
yeah.
that's just what Jared has said. This was our project that
No,
he said.
no,
if we
Jared
would-
said that.
Jared said that. This is what Jared has told me. This is our project. And we agreed that we would pay for materials and he would do the labor. But as far as mobilization, that's something they all put in now, whether it costs that much or not. But when they do a bid, they include that in there. I know there were some questions when Taylor came even about the cost of mailboxes. I think there's a certain amount that they put in there, but sometimes it's a placeholder, so you put it in. And if we don't need it, then we have leftover money. If we do need it, then we're amending the budget. So we certainly can, you can have county put in there whatever you
Do
want.
whatever you want.
But
It's your
and-
budget, not
Another
mine.
thing that's been mentioned too is we only have a certain time, and if he walks, said when he's completed with this, then it all becomes our money.
So
Then none of it will. be
when have we
his.
had a discussion with him? What was the last time we talked to him?
Jared has quite.
Well, you're talking about the development.
He's still on board.
Yeah, he's still on.
I think
board
they
right
met
as
last
of now.
month or 2 months ago, just recent.
Yeah,
He did what?
They met like a month or
Mhm.
two ago,
yeah.
or
Okay.
sooner than that, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
do know they've met just recently.
I don't know about you guys, but I have heartache about doubling the stormwater fee just to pay for a capital project. I mean, from $5 to $10. I mean, what's the commercial rate going to?
It would be doubled. And I'm not sure what that is.
Is it only that, or was there other, so we had this stormwater audit that we're probably going to
Yeah.
need.
There would be some more expenses, but. I mean, if we're not, if we don't have that capital project, we have. And we don't double it, that's the glory of Excel. Let's figure out. If we didn't double it. And we just stayed where we're at. Well, the other thing is we've committed the ARPA money to it.
Why is that bad?
Because you had to commit it to a project
It has to be spent by when? It's.
End of the year,
end of the year,
But it had already been committed.
had to be committed already.
which is fine. Why are we
Yeah.
not okay with that?
He gave us to
Yeah.
look like it was a problem, that's what Ryan was saying, right?
Yeah, but it's a
You
problem.
looked just
I
like
mean,
was a problem.
it is because we have to spend it on a project. So maybe we say we're gonna,
Well, can we
spend-
can spend it on this 5,900.
yeah, we
Yeah.
could spend the 165,
We talked about.
So what
that,
pipe?
using that.
We did-
381
Okay,
there.
what Cammie's saying
Okay.
is she takes out that 5,900 project. We don't double it. She was just trying to come up with a figure for you.
Yeah,
So-
so if we don't double it and stuff, we're still in the. 155,900. Some of, and 100 of that is your impact fee study,
So you took out the 80.
Yeah,
the 820.
820, you took that out.
Yeah. And major impact, or didn't increase it at all. That would just be. Excuse me. Staying constant from last year. You're still in the whole 155.
Can you go back up?
Absolutely.
So we're including a bunch of expenses into the employee category this year that we didn't last year,
Mhm.
161,000.
Like I said, some of that's billing, some of that's because of your new SWIFT management that you have to do.
I mean, I guess, I understand that we're breaking that out differently this year than we did last year, but last year and the year before that, and then before that, we paid for it somehow.
Yeah.
Right, without increasing the stormwater fee. It was all budgeted,
Mhm,
and it was paid for,
mhm.
and now all of a sudden it's not, just because we're categorizing in percentage.
Well, you could change that back if you don't wanna,
No, I'm just saying.
There, but yeah. where did it all go?
Yeah.
It was probably absorbed more in your sewer. And. It's definitely more transparent what we're doing now.
It is, but we shouldn't have such a shortfall from just a year ago. Just because we're making percentages, same percentages. for employees.
yeah.
Another thing too, which that Jerry had passed out to us, this was one of the first things last year, are these 13 storm drain projects
Mhm.
that we have. And he was hoping that we could put in for this year to do 2 of the projects. He's thinking the 2 most necessary are 4,600 up here that's sloughing in. And 6,300 by the cemetery that the pipes completely rotted through. But again, if we never ever get any ahead on our stormwater, yes, they can come out of capital projects, but then when we get to that, you see, we don't really have enough every year because we're in the hole every year in our budget, so we're taking money from savings to subsidize our budget. We never will ever get to any of these. But another thing with this feasibility study we do with our impact, we aren't charging a stormwater impact fee to any of our new builds, and we should be.
Yeah, there's absolutely no stormwater impact fee. Which,
And we should be charging one.
On new homes, we're not charging stormwater.
nope, we don't have an impact
No,
fee study,
Well, not every,
Yeah,
We're talking about new builds.
new builds.
So like when these new homes came in, it is not part of our impact fee.
So what is the money we collect when we build some of the, say, parks?
There's.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, Morgan, can pull it up. You've got parks, you've got. The only impact fees you have right now are your sewer. And. Your parks. We both bring up new impact fees.
Yep, so
And then-
Central Weaver, Upper City Impact, and then Park Impact.
Those are your ones. So a portion of it's going. to
yeah, that
Central.
makes sense. We should be for roads in that. Getting to the point where we can.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks, 100,000, I'm just,
so which one would be
Like
the
what?
best bang for the buck? Would our a road impact fee be the best quote, quickest, I guess.
All of them.
All of
Yeah,
them.
all of them.
Roads,
Any new house, should-
But that's like, well, I'm just saying,
Stormwater.
Yeah.
so I wonder if one of these guys, is that's $400,000.
Yeah, and my gut feeling is if you're doing all 4, you should give a discount.
yes,
Yeah.
and we will.
You know, I mean, yeah. That's what, when I was told the amount, I says, so all 4? They're like, no, each, and I'm like, no, all 4?
And we did just get that grant, that $100,000 grant, that our portion's only 10, that Taylor said that they thought we could use part of that grant maybe to help with these impact. And what this new, because then I can tell you about this new water component too. Part of this is to do any new updates to our general plan and do design standards. Part we learned down at Utah League last year, they passed part of our general plan needs to include a water component. Because we need to be water wise, and so they want us to include what we're doing in our general plan to be water.
That's not us.
Well.
Yeah, that's irrigation. and-
Exactly what it
said. We all do water.
They're already.
It's their baby.
Except for it is us, because they said 40% of the water used in Utah is for unnecessary landscaping, which is grass.
Yep.
So they want us to account in our general plan, if you have an acre lot, how much water are you expecting your residents will be using to water that grass?
But again, that would be their study.
But
It
it
would-
still has to be part of our general plan. That's what the state last year passed. I have the bills written down. There's certain bills and it has to now be, we have to account for that in our general plan. So part of this new grant that we got, well, we can do that. And then
Could we
also part of that
charge
can be spent.
the waters for this?
Yeah,
Could
absolutely.
we charge them for part of this general plan?
Charge
We
who?
should,
The
The
water
water.
district.
the two water districts. Because if we're having to pay for part of this general fund, then it's water efficiency, we don't have water, so let's charge them for it.
Well, but there's things cities can do to it, like the flip, here's my strip. I mean, there's other things that will come. So this was the grant that we received. And it's, and but Cammy already put that in there, the 10,000. It was $100,000 grant. And it's for Hooper zoning ordinance and design standards, but it's to help do any upgrades in our general plan and for design standards for any kind of commercial or anything. But Taylor said he thought we could use some of this money to help with these impact fees. But again, we haven't had a bid yet per se. He was just throwing out numbers that Cammy could put in there.
So I think right now, I need direction with the stormwater. And
So,
you're all giving me the blank stare.
so the only, so under the expense, it's about the same, 169, basically 170 to 174. About the same from last year to this year.
Mhm.
The increase was the employee wage of 162,000.
Yeah, which I can take that out, we just need to allocate it somewhere else. If you want.
That's what I'm saying. Where was it allocated last year? Had
It
to
was
be
allocated between general fund and your sewer.
So you add it into sewer and it makes our sewer look more.
I was gonna say, sewer
Yeah.
going up anyway.
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
And so
It
it's
was-
general fund look like.
That'd be my question. Is there more money involved by us allocating this to different?
There
Areas.
shouldn't be.
It should be the
It
same.
should be the
Yeah,
same.
at the end of the day, it should be the same, which I'm saying yes, without going through and calculating it exactly, I'm comfortable probably saying that, yeah. I mean, those percentages add up to 100% for each employee. Yes,
So our general fund
But-
should look like $169,000.
more to spend, yeah. So let's go through general fund, and that might very well answer our question, and then we can go back and,
So the first one would be attorney, why is it $20,000 more?
okay, so the attorney fees, I pulled up the spreadsheet that I gave to Bryce as far as the attorney fees. And calculated what the attorney's fees were,
You gave me something?
well, back when you guys requested that report, you remember that a while back, it's been a hot minute. Yeah, I gave you the attorney fees.
Where does the state get those numbers?
Yeah.
Where do they get the numbers that?
From
Hold
the,
on, hold on.
transparent Utah, they're not right. They don't match our budget. So the 67,000 is correct.
I have it on here. Do you have it on your email?
One of the reasons the attorney
Oh,
fees,
sending it
is when we
to me.
went back and added up, we have already spent more than what we even had in our budget for the attorney.
You sent it
this
on
year.
March
And I
13th.
have it somewhere here
Okay.
too, because I went through the
But
accounts payable.
but it wasn't Paul Reed Richards
It's just Richards.
or Richard, or it wasn't.
Not
didn't
Reed
follow
and
the-
Brandon?
It-
You're saying that, are you saying Reed and Brandon? We spent that much on those two, or?
No, I'm saying the reason why
Okay.
that it went up is because when we looked at how much we had in the budget for our attorney, we had already spent more already on that than what was in our budget, and we still have the rest of it this fiscal year to go.
Right here.
Was that Reed and Brandon, or you're?
No, this was Reed and Brandon. I went
Here,
through and added
let's,
them up.
let's just pull this up right here.
$14,000 per
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, but that's not right.
This
because
is
when you
what-
Go through accounts
This was
payable,
what was requested
Yeah.
and
then we can go by
provided.
that.
from July 1st, 22 to June 30th of 23.
It's not
We,
there. Sorry,
Oh.
I wanna see it.
why is it not up there? I'm showing the screen. Oh, because it's only gonna show what.
Last year was,
Okay, right there, sorry. We we have 37,273.50 last year.
So does that include
Then,
the law firm that,
Richardson,
um,
Kloss, or whatever
Yeah.
his firm
No,
was.
these ones are
this
only
is just
Brandon.
Brandon.
So, but probably, I'm thinking maybe when he did that amount, it could have included the brother Sean. When he did Richards. But the 37 is still, we only had like 20,000 in our budget, and we spend more than that on the attorney.
actually, let's see.
Okay, so. Here's what this is what I mean, I provided to you, Bryce, sorry, it's been a hot minute, I
I
know.
don't think I ever saw that.
Did you? I sent it to Morgan to be
Did
sent
I
out.
I swear I sent it to you.
Oh, I gave it to Morgan to be.
So
sent
as far as like their cost going up, so I Reed did call me and he says, I'm just gonna tell you, the planning commission, between the planning commission and the city council for the year was about 2 hours. So the planning commission and city council, per se, us calling them did not cause it to go up. That's from Reed.
Okay,
So,
fair enough, yeah.
so whatever else has been happening, that's the reason why it's gone up.
We can pull out the accounts payable,
Now, this is what,
because it
was-
shows, like, if you go through and they have it broken down on every invoice price. And it'll
Sure,
say
like
like,
who they talk to, yeah.
yeah, it'll say like
Right.
4 hours plan, I mean, it doesn't say
It
who they
doesn't
talk to, because when I asked him
What
to.
he specifically said individuals, because I think the worry is that we as city council members were calling them and racking up the bill, which was not happening at all. We accounted for 2, because he verified it was about 2 hours between.
Yeah, and that's.
And he said most of it was Deborah and myself, and I think, there's one other, maybe Dell, I don't know. So anyway,
yeah, so I'll forward this to you, because I
Yeah, that's
apologize,
good.
you never.
No,
got
I
it.
thought I sent it too, sorry.
and you could have, and it could have,
Yeah, sorry, I totally thought that you had gotten this.
I'll send it to him. I'll
Okay.
forward it over.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Morgan.
So do you have the sheet?
so last year's was in 23, we spent 19,000.
What is it, say 22?
22, yeah.
610.
19,
686 is the amount.
yeah,
What's the latest date on that?
The latest is.
September.
They paid
Or is it
September,
the last date,
invoice date was
20
9/30.
January 25?
Mhm.
So why isn't it updated on our budget? Our budget only says 14,000. This is March.
Well, because it's also allocated between, your,
Which one?
yeah, that's
This is the March.
yeah,
Okay,
this one right here.
but it's allocated
Page 5.
over to also your,
Sewer
I
had
wanna
some.
say sewer gets some of it.
There's no attorney line on sewer.
Yeah, I asked that same thing, because I went through and added up the invoices that we had.
But I think. Jump back to
I
here.
was real surprised when that guy mentioned how much we'd spent, like who reports it to the state? When the-
Yeah, who does?
We have to, every quarter, we're required to upload the transcripts. So we do.
You guys.
We just pull off of Cassell. Cassell has a function that we just click a couple buttons, it comes over, we download it to the state. Every quarter for you.
What's Cassell? I don't know.
Cassell is your
It's the
accounting program.
motherboard.
It's a very common accounting program.
Okay, that's it.
Sorry. Cassell, Excel, yeah, you know. So, yeah, we don't have it broke out. But we are allocating it. You know what? Part of it is that sewer administration. Right there. I'm sure putting it, part of it to that sewer administration. So that sewer administration would be our all our legal fees from the general fund allocated out. So you've got your accounting, your attorney are allocated.
It's no wonder it's so confusing.
Yeah.
You don't know where all the attorney fees are going, you don't know where all the
Mhm.
attorney fees are going.
Yeah.
We're putting stuff
And
in
that's-
line items that don't even match what we're spending that for.
And I'm happy to break things out more.
Well, we should
I'm
all
just-
go on, the only attorney line we have in the entire budget is on page 5, 1041-45. So what is it all going to attorney line, if that's what we're paying? for?
But don't you want to have your other funds pay
I
for
wanna know
portion?
what we're spending it. I don't-
Okay. So,
I think the same with our engineering too, because I've noticed they're
there's 4 different lines. right
They're
there.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like 80, 60, 20. So if you add it all up.
and that's a struggle we've had, that the engineering has not necessarily been coded correctly. I'll be honest, I have not had time to go through every single invoice. And that is not what I typically do, but I do have plans to sit down and go through every single invoice, reallocate them according to where they probably should be.
Can somebody internally do that for you? Because
But that would be fantastic.
I'm just saying, budget wise, because I'm looking at this, since Teresa's left, we're spending a lot more money on accounting, and since Brian left, we're spending a lot more money on engineering.
Mhm.
It's just a fact. I've looked through the numbers and it's gonna get, and I'm not, don't take.
No, I'm not.
Don't be,
No.
that's just a fact.
Trust me, I am fine, but
It's just
yeah, no, I know. And both me and Ryan Child, have commented that, Hooper is taking a lot more time.
Sure.
Because
And I've seen,
I am having to do a lot more cleanup. Even the monthly accounting is a lot more cleanup because of lack of, it used to be that when I came in to honestly do your bank recs, it was it was not much time. I was able to do the internal controls a lot more effectively and stuff. But yes, I do have to spend a lot more time here.
does anybody on staff have the capability?
We have had the discussion. We have the discussion that there is a need for some training.
And another thing too,
And
you
that
have
was
to remember
something
to add A
on
and
the
B.
radar.
Oh, I'm adding A, B,
Yes.
and C.
Okay, but what you need to realize with that, Bryce, is yes, we are paying Cami more, but we are paying Monica less. So if you would have added up Teresa's and you add up accounting,
yeah.
you add those up, because it ends up being different, and the same with Brian.
I've already done that.
Yeah, so if you take Bryant's 120,000 that we're not, and you add up what we were paying Bryant and JUB, that's what you need to compare.
I have, and
Okay,
it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's gonna get bigger.
well, in
So
engineering this year.
I have done that, and so it's not. Because the new hire did not fill any of the gaps that left.
Well,
And Brian, he was an asset, he.
he was, and I'm not saying that, but a part of engineering too, is we did this stormwater. And anybody's welcome at any time to come and look at the invoices, because they break it all down. And when they did our stormwater audit, there was about $30,000, I think, I can't remember exactly, so don't hold me to that number, but if you go back and look at the numbers. Another thing too that we have differently now than we did do before is we are breaking everything down accounting wise that we weren't doing before that. Just like Cami has said, as far as transparency, garbage is paying for garbage, sewer is paying for sewer. Before it was lumped into one. So there's things that are taking more time, even now with Cami doing that we didn't do before. Never ever, like last year, maybe you did prior, but I don't believe so. Last year, we had like one budget meeting. This year, we've had more budget meetings, so you can better understand this. I can better understand this. So I think, yes, you have to always compare everything across the board, because you can't compare because it doesn't. And so, I mean, you need to add up all the numbers and make
I know,
sure that
but
they
what
are.
about the end result? That's what I'm.
Yeah, so the end result is there. So now
So we're
everything
paying
is
a lot.
getting built. No, we're not. But now we have Cami then that's doing this, but we have someone that's doing our billing. It's like I said to Ryan after one of our meetings, we have someone that we're paying $19 an hour to send out our bills. We had somebody we were paying $38 to send out our bills.
$33.
Well, it was 30, it was 30.
But that's not all she did.
No,
That's
I'm
all
just saying
just-
that part. So you have the billing and the billing. So you take that extra in the dollars. So yes, now we have county that's breaking this out down more. It is. So that's what we have to compare, because part of that was the majority of the day was spent on billing, and now we have, so again, let's compare them so they're
So-
even across.
So I'll just throw some numbers out there, just, just because it's reality. So Brian and Teresa together were 173, 849. The new employees were 137. So that's 36, 522.
Are you taking with benefits or only straight
Yeah,
across
I
the
think I'm
board?
taking benefits.
Yeah, I don't think so, because Bryant's was about 120 with benefits, and Teresa was about
Maybe it's just salary. yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It was done a few days ago. So that's 36,522 that we have available to go to accounting and engineering. Our accounting's gone up 22,000, and I have no idea what engineering's gone up.
Well,
So there's. So I mean, it is what it is, but I'm just saying, we're paying more for a premium service through these guys where we were handling a lot. So we got to figure out a way to handle some of her workload internally.
I would love that.
I know you would.
And we
Because
tried,
this
yes,
meeting right now, we're, I don't know, $600 already,
well, but we would have
Um,
been anyway with doing this, but part of it, we're gonna have a coding training,
Well,
so with that.
so anyway, back to
Mhm.
lighten up that light, so we gotta figure something out on the engineering side as well, I don't know, cause that's just gonna get more and more and more, cause I'm sure they charge as much as Cammy does, or close to it, I would imagine. So we're not getting, what we had, and it's gonna get. I know you think.
Well, I'm just going by what Jared's even told me, and you can have Jared come in and he'll explain to
But
you
I'm-
the same
you
thing.
know,
with difference too.
And that's another thing I get asked for, a cost back in November and then maybe back in January. Maybe one other time, of like, how much have you spent on engineering? I've never seen it. So I don't know.
And I said that
asked.
to Morgan in March, so
Okay.
I
Yeah,
did.
I just did that.
I
Sorry.
thought that was
I've-
coming to you, so.
Okay.
And in
Promise, I
time,
got
yeah,
that.
And that's something we can start doing if you would like to have it on meetings, because that's something that the sewer does. They end up doing like a check register every time, and you can also look at the invoices at any time.
Yeah, that's
that's
just,
just general.
Oh, baby. A lot of money.
Like I
no,
said,
a ledger would be great.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah,
I'll
not
give you a
broke,
general
what money
ledger
comes
every-
in, what money goes
yeah,
I'll give you a general ledger every month.
That's for.
in. That,
Yeah.
I'll give you one.
we can
Happy
do
to.
that every
Yes.
meeting if you would like
Months
to.
ago.
Okay.
Haven't seen one.
And then also the invoices where we can
Tonight.
print those off too, if you would like to see those. Because like the attorney, they go through and break it down. It'll say 4 hours for this, 3 hours for this. And the same with engineering, they break it down. So we could at any time anybody wants, if you want us to start including those in the packet, we can. So you want them for engineering and.
I'll just
for
share the
the
whole
Just the
general
ledger.
ledger.
I think
I'll
so.
give the
Yeah,
whole ledger. I have no problem.
Like what's coming in, what's going
Sure
out,
thing.
like Ryan
But
said.
you want to see specifics on that? You don't need to see specifics on what the engineering is paying or what the attorney's paying. Is there any others you
Well,
want to see?
there's one question I do have now that we're in engineering. So somebody, a developer comes in for a concept meeting, they're charged $500. Is that what it is? $250?
Concepts are 200,
What's that again?
200.
$200. Okay, so I was coming here
It's
the
2 or
other day and I
250.
saw everybody piling out and I saw the JUB guy there. So what did he charge? And was it a 2-hour meeting? What did he charge?
Concepts
Were
are
his
usually an
charges
hour.
More than what we collected?
And we have an engineering fee when people end up, when they apply for their building permit. Because I specifically asked that, because that came up in another city. So we do have a component in
So
there that
he's
pays the
not-
engineer.
He's not in excess of what we're charging.
No, we are figuring that because I asked.
Okay.
And we do charge an engineering fee. So when they come in, and I don't know particularly which one that was, but if he comes in, there's an engineering fee. The
and that's over
secondary
and above
water,
the $200
the water
that we
piece.
charge.
Yeah, so the concept is just for them to get around the table to understand what they can do for the project. And then once the actual subdivision goes into place, they pay for so much per lot within their grand scheme of things. And then the engineering cost is associated in the per lot price. So it's within our fee schedule.
And sometime we need to do fee schedule too, which we haven't even gotten to yet. Because we need to review our fee schedule too.
So the preliminary plat includes 2 engineering and 1 legal review, so it's $500 plus $40 per lot. And the final review with engineering and legal review is $850 plus $40 per
So,
lot.
But the concept meeting is.
The
200,
concept is 2.
But the engineer, they're all here for that, or not.
But when they end up coming in and applying for their subdivision, they have to pay, there's an engineering fee, and that's what she's
Concept
saying.
meeting.
Concept is 200.
But weren't you asking, does the,
Oh,
who comes,
Oh,
who do you have come to the concept meeting?
it's usually Jared. I used to go to him. I no longer do. I just don't get involved with him anymore. So Jared, Malcolm, Taylor, Hooper Water, Hooper Irrigation, depending on where the location,
would
or
be-
Taylor West Weaver Water. Mhm.
A contract.
Fire
Mhm.
district.
Fire
members,
district, yeah.
Usually a member of the planning commission. So he would be the only one. But again, we need to review our impact fee, our fee schedule, because that's something we should review every year too, because it hasn't been reviewed. I don't know what the date is on that one.
2021, 22.
Yeah, so it's been a few years since we've done that too.
So where we at? General
General
fund
fund.
expenses. So I have a question, contract services, what is that?
Okay.
You're not mad at us, are you?
No, I'm pulling some stuff
Go
up.
ahead.
Oh, you'll know if I'm mad at you. I'm actually just trying to see if I can pull one thing up real quick for you.
Actually, I'm in this, book. Cause I marked it, so yeah, I didn't mark that one. I would be.
I love like page 3. My, it's another thing saying,
9.
I was hoping I had something here that I could, that would help. I'm not finding anything that's gonna help us. off.
I had some questions in front of it though, so anyway, I've had some questions.
Just 1 second here. I'm gonna see if I can grab one thing.
Did you want to start in the front price? What
Yeah,
page
try-
did you want to
let's
start
just
with?
Start in the front and go down.
Okay.
That might be easier.
So are you
At
on
that
page,
point, so you got sewer, garbage,
Stormwater.
stormwater. And where we at?
capital projects, I don't know.
so what page did you want to start with?
Just page.
Okay.
Page 1 and what tab?
Yeah, what tab are you in?
Your cap.
General fund.
General fund, just the income.
Yeah, expenses actually.
Okay.
Where did you want to do income?
You tell me. I can, we do income first
Yeah,
or
let's start with income.
do what income we have? Okay.
If I had, okay, my question, I'm just going back, Mark, you guys might have something else too, so. The utility franchise, so it was 311,974. Right, the first year,
Mhm.
and. This year, it looks like you sent us a note, it looked like we had collected 290. 290 something.
294 is as of March, which is 3/4 of the year.
Okay, that's in March.
Yeah.
So. My question is, as a council, we agreed to. Take 5% of that and put it in our emergency.
We're
And
doing
it
that.
still says 9,600.
Okay.
So-
You have three
We
different
are
accounts,
doing
Chris.
that right here on your financials. Reserved utility tax. We've got the 16 there so far.
Okay,
So 5% is being set
I
aside.
can live with that.
And there was also that other one that was 9.6 that I didn't know what that was. You know, you said there's the other one. So what was that other one for? So do we want to not have that account? Maybe we only need the one account.
What's that one say on it, Kenny? The
The restricted portion,
The fund balance.
the fund balance,
16,000.
16.
What is it, what's the, what's it called?
What's it called? It's called reserved utility tax 5%. Cause
Can you put it, looks like something emergency on it, emergency prep?
we could
Yeah,
call
just-
emergency prep if you'd
That's
like,
kind
I
of
can
what-
add
I
that.
know,
Okay,
There's
but
some-
can you tell me what type of emergency prep? There's lots of emergency preps. Can you give me more details?
disaster.
Like,
Just kidding.
like a CERT level type
Yeah,
thing, okay,
Sure, yeah.
cause I mean, really
Cert, we
kinda,
could be- Cert's like a
Certain
function,
fund.
yeah, cert's like a
a function.
function, there's so many other things.
Yeah,
Um,
but like,
Student
okay, so
I would
are
say
you
disaster,
thinking like a FEMA level
Yes.
disaster?
that kind of stuff, yeah.
So I'm trying to think how we can communicate that in a short thing so that people would know in the future what it is. Because really, even your fund balance should be that. But yeah, we could,
Disaster fund.
we
Emergency.
could just put dash disaster.
I just called it emergency preparedness, but
That's,
you can
that
call it
would be
whatever
good
you
too,
want.
yeah.
That's what I.
Okay, maybe I'll put dash emergency prep.
Yeah, because it was page 2, that's what on this
Okay.
one, that's the 16,001. That's what I counted it as.
I'll see what I can fit in to sell and see what I can work with on that. I'll see what I can come up with and then do what we can. So,
Okay. That's all I have on that page.
okay. Anybody else have anything on that page?
You're, yeah,
And you did still say it's not federal, that
500,000,
most
so we
office
did.
isn't paying.
Well, that's our budget. This is what we asked
School
for.
run, church run.
Because they
Yeah,
bought
it was
one
last
to
year.
the Utah League and they
and
said,
then
oh,
this is
usually
budget. for
everybody
next year,
wants to
but
do
probably
this.
not
And
gonna
I
get
said,
quite that
"No,
much.
No,
we're not, everybody isn't.
no.
So that's,
And I don't know, it's gonna look like an entitlement and their state government. Or what the reason is, but I don't
and
know.
that could be why we're getting less than we anticipated.
So
It's
I
all.
think the
That's
church
the
is very
first-
good because
That's the
they're.
question.
But and I think the school, because they're state government, and they're because of federal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only 5 buildings.
Yeah.
Well,
That's it. Any more questions on that page?
Any other Bryce on page 1? Okay.
So I think it starts at charges for services, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, which 2? No.
So there's, so I'm just looking at current budget, 10,000 for zoning and subdivision, now it's 3,000 for,
Mhm.
what's, I mean, I don't.
Well, so typically it had been budgeted at 10,000.
That's building, right?
Less building, we're not seeing as much. I'm not anticipating building going up. I mean, I could be wrong, tariffs.
Okay.
Might do the opposite, who knows? But, yeah.
One thing I think Cammie's done too is we've gone through specifically through categories, because sometimes we really did have numbers as placeholders that we weren't using, so. She's gone through and compared them to what we've spent.
We did get a 50,000 grant for tomato days this year.
Okay, so that, okay.
Yeah, so I kind of broke that separate so you could see
So.
why that,
So we got a $50,000 grant, and then 80,000 budgeted. So
as
what-
revenue.
Oh, that's from
Yeah.
revenue,
This is revenue.
okay, that's.
This is what we expect for
Okay.
donations. and
All right,
such.
gotcha.
This is money in.
Okay.
Yeah.
130,000.
Part of it, I don't know if it's here, but you probably noticed on your financials. I did turn in the paperwork, so we got the money back for our bathrooms because that paperwork had never been turned in. So,
That's good.
yeah, so you'll see that on here listed and it's like 200 and something
Yeah, it was a
thousand
pretty good job.
dollars that the state or the county let us know we had never turned in.
Now on expenses.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Mhm. Why are your accounting fees so high?
No, no.
Tammy needs to donate
No,
more of her
I-
time.
So,
Teasing you,
so-
Bryce.
that's fine.
You
So
can
it looks
take
like
it.
the city council is gonna get paid less this year, is that right?
And the
budgets,
planning commission will get people.
and the planning commission's doubling. So what's up with
And-
that?
We're donating more of your time. Just kidding, yeah.
Yeah, $25 a meeting is too much.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right now, year to date, council has only spent 3,644 in their pay. And so,
oh, okay, you're talking
Yeah.
fiscal.
yeah, so I'm not seeing that you're gonna hit the 9,000, so I didn't budget for 9,000. Unless you're gonna,
Sure, that then, cause I don't know, what was your,
Probably 6,500.
what was your W two from the city? Like 1,500 bucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, times that by 5,
So.
yeah, so I don't
I
know,
wonder if it's, if was some council members previously on the planning commission and that never
No.
got changed in the billing
no,
or in the coding, no? Cause I just went off of, looking at these numbers thinking, okay, it's gonna be about the same. Yeah,
so that's 7,500.
but, okay, planning commission, we figured for 2 more people, so maybe
So I'd put
council
that
really
as
ought to be
8,000.
8,000, okay, I'm game. Like I said.
And yeah, council training, it's 7,200,
A lot.
that's
Yeah.
quite a bit.
You spent 3,000 up to date. Is that about what you're? That also counts for like your mayor going to,
Cause none of us actually went other than the mayor, so that will probably bumped it up. So I don't know, maybe next year, so yeah, maybe you keep that up, I don't know.
are you planning on going next year, I think, is the thing, if you have new members, it probably would be good.
Sure,
for
yeah,
them.
they should go.
Yeah, cause there's a lot to learn.
There's a ton.
All of us are always in shock. Here, but planning commission, we were adding 2 new members and they're doing double the meetings, is my understanding. Am I wrong?
Possibly.
Not yet,
We
they
haven't
could.
decided that.
Okay, so we want to back that off until we decide that?
That would, yeah.
Okay.
I'd put it like,
8.
yeah,
8. Okay. Yep. And then if we're gonna have new members, we definitely need to do some
Training.
additional training. And that only gives us 1,500 more in training.
Yeah.
Okay. So operating. Your auditors are probably what it is. That what an audit is. I'll try and donate more of my time.
oh, Ryan, you need to-
Repeat that one more time.
Yeah.
I actually do.
You're
She
being recorded.
does.
I actually do. I don't put down
Not
all
the
my
school
time.
teacher.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
exactly. The laptop barely gets left. You can ask my husband.
We appreciate it.
But it's my town too. So I try to do what I can, but I can't give all my time,
Mhm.
although I'd love to. So I have vested interest in your city as well. So the attorney, do we think we need to decrease that then? We certainly can. Because we only want to account for half the attorney there.
All right, 25,000.
Where does the other half go?
The other half goes over to your sewer.
We know why and what.
Yeah, it's been lumped in that general, but I don't like it.
We can't do that.
Let's break it out going forward. I'm great with that. I'm just, that was one of those things that has been BC before Canon. So let's break it out.
So what?
Let's do it.
Trying to pursue
You want to even not allocate some of the attorney
it.
there?
Anybody?
Anybody, what do you want to do?
Just put it right here.
You can just leave it in the general.
Just-
You want to just do it
Just
general?
leave
We'll
it.
just leave it all in the
We
general.
just-
Okay, what about, we've also been allocating the accounting and the auditing there as well. You want to call it something different, or do you want to?
Well, that was one of the categories we were questioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going up 20,000.
And it was.
So that was because of the attorney.
Mhm.
So why is it the attorney going up $20,000? total
Well,
from 2 previous years.
let's bump that. If we are looking at only. Those two things.
That was one thing I caught with Cammy is when we were going through, we only had like 20,000 for our attorney, but I added up so far what we had paid this year, and we'd already paid more than 20,000. So we couldn't have a yearly, and that was only through January. I didn't have March's yet. So we couldn't have a budget of 20,000, but already been paying 37,000.
Yeah, but if I take
If you combine
your
those.
accounting,
Mhm.
your, your attorney,
So how much is in sewer year to date? Through
that's,
March?
that's what I'm just
That's
doing right
what
now.
you're doing? Okay.
Yeah, you're on it, Ryan. You're in the same thought process. Way to go. You should have been an accountant.
28 years too late.
Oh, dang it. Hmm.
Well, the previous 20,000, and then it's like 24, so it doubled from 23 to 24. Yeah.
So both of those are 81. And we've got budgeted here. So we took out sewer administration. That was 45, right? That's what we have there. Okay. So if I minus out 45,
Because we have
36, 570. Hold on. Think count.
Subdivision.
This is the accounting, this was the attorney. Right? Hold on.
Maybe they ought to be separate. Maybe we ought to
Yeah.
have legal counsel versus city legal
Yeah.
counsel and then other attorney
Yes.
stuff.
We could do that, we just need to
That-
make
that would-
sure it's coded that way,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing is.
Yeah, because the
you know.
other attorney, he was about 5, so,
Mhm,
yeah.
Yeah. So your
That
attorney
needs to be
would be,
separated from,
Legal counsel,
Okay.
yes.
yeah.
yeah. So your attorney would be 26 so far.
Year to date,
Uh-huh,
we had,
well, 27-ish, 20.
so we had 13,000 in the sewer already. Cause there's only 14 in general.
we need to add another 4 onto that, 27.
So. If we're gonna do. If we're not going to charge the sewer department. For sewer or for legal. We would want to just charge them the accounting. Which we would wanna do about 24 there. And then your general fund. Is going to take. The full amount of the attorney. Which I think we need to do 50 there then. Mhm.
24,000 was in the sewer. On the trim.
Well, I took. Or sewer was at 45. 24, I'm saying is, the accounting,
County or attorney.
accounting,
County.
2,100 was attorney,
1,000.
1,000 in there. So, get my zeros right. So we really could maybe do the attorney then more at 42 in theory, but. Yeah, that our fees are going up, I think we. Or are they going up? Is that what we heard? So we probably want to build a little extra in there,
The term.
so maybe 48.
Not much. Still way cheaper than.
And then house attorney, yeah.
They're pretty comparable to what other cities pay. It's going to 125 an hour, and I'm not sure if it has. Or if that's just their new rate, I don't know, but that's what they said it is 125.
We'll maybe put 48 there. Are you okay with that? Going once?
We had 45,
Let's put 45.
that was 45.
Well, then, I thought 45 was in sewer. I can't remember, you guys.
No, it was 25 on the paper, but you changed it to a blue note.
Oh, yeah,
45.
45. Because when I added up all the attorney's fees we
So
paid
can you
today.
put 25 and just amend it later?
Yeah,
Well,
yep, sure.
Yeah, but what you need to realize is we've already spent more than 25, and we're not even through the year, so it's not going to be 25 attorney. So
This
far,
is
we-
what you've
On
spent
legal
today.
counsel, though,
Oh,
for the
okay.
free
You
market.
spent 38 so
But the
far.
only
38.
reason we know that is because Ryan asked the question like, worse, because you got it in a bunch of other categories broken out. So instead of just having it right there,
Otherwise, it would have been 14,000 we're looking at in black
Yeah.
and white.
Yeah,
but if you go through and add
So
up our
then-
accounts payable that we've already paid to Richards,
Then
we've
we have-
already paid
38,
them.
335.
Reflect it, right?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We've already paid them 38, so we can't have a budget at 25.
I get that, but that's what it says right here, 25,000.
Yeah, and that's what
So
we're
we need to
saying,
change
but
that.
we need to change
Yeah,
that.
so we can change that. But if we're going to take it out of sewer, we need to increase it here.
Right, yeah,
Yeah. So
But I-
25 is no longer going to be.
I wouldn't have
No.
known that.
I wouldn't have either.
I wouldn't have known that. I just figured 25.
Yeah.
We didn't know that
And I-
attorneys were getting dispersed
Mhm.
and accounting through all the other.
I'll give you a
Got it.
memo letter, right? You can have that.
Yeah, so now that you know, now that you know that, we can't have 25 be the
Yeah.
amount. Because we know we spend more than that on our attorney. Tammy's already telling you that, she already added up, we've already spent almost 38,000 so
That's
far,
what
and we
this
still
number
have
is right
one more
there.
quarter.
So again, why are we putting 20-something thousand in sewer fund when we don't even use that?
Well, we're not, she just changed it to over here.
Now it's only your accounting fees. Or do you want to not charge any accounting to sewer?
Well, county's different.
different.
I'm talking about attorney.
Yeah, that I just was going with what has been done for many years. BC before county, not saying it's right.
I just feel like we're rat holing stuff.
Yeah,
So people.
Not
don't
saying
know
that's
where it's
right.
going.
Yeah.
No,
that's-
I'm not saying it's right.
We agree.
I'm fine. Let's move it. Yeah. Where do you want? You tell me.
What did we spend, 37?
38, 335 so far in.
So just make it 45.
But we still have one more quarter to go, that's with 3/4, we've spent almost 40, so we have one more quarter, so we should at least do 10,000.
We shouldn't be spending that much money on attorney fees.
Well, other cities have a lot more than.
No, but he's talking Hooper City.
Right. Historically speaking, I spent 20,000 and.
I will call him between now and July 1st.
Yeah, nobody call in. Don't do anything. Hold your breath.
40,000 on attorney, I don't think.
Well,
That's
ever, yeah.
And
Hey,
that-
Brian,
that
but remember what
includes
county said, how it was done before county, it was hidden in other categories. It was in general and it was in sewer.
And
So
that's where it
maybe
was
we have-
budgeted, so I was trying to match
No
budgets.
one knew.
Because it's
Well,
rat hole.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So
Well,
I,
no, we're not.
and part of what I do, I try to match where things are budgeted. I
Yeah.
did not do the budget last year.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm,
no fault of you.
yeah, no, I'm fine. Attack me all you want.
But that's why we're trying this year to go through all this and have everything as transparent as we can. So if we
Let's make a budget, try and stick with it then. Let's say 45,000 and try and stick with it.
Yeah.
Sounds great
That's
to
why
me.
we make a budget, so we can try and meet that goal.
Exactly.
That's why. Never mind, that's a whole other.
Okay. So this is that transportation grant. Is 100,000. I did put it kind of on its own line, even though it could possibly be part of engineering, but I wanted that kind of broke out.
So it's not in this book.
No, that is a new thing. But you'll see the $100,000 spent here, but I added. 90,000 to your grants here.
Okay.
And again, it's not in your book, because I didn't want to kill 3 trees. Or 2, I went back to 2. Just one. So,
So the general engineering you have listed here for 80,000,
mhm.
what's the total budget? That you have, because year to date, we spent 176,000
Just in
Mhm.
general.
in general.
So we would have 80 in general. Grab my
What did we
calculator.
spend last year?
80 plus. Hold on, I can only do one question at a time.
Year before was,
Another
73.
20 there.
That was probably the year Brian came on, right, in 23, is that right? Yeah.
Bryant came on in 22.
22.
Yeah.
And I have 30 there. And 30 is what, in the stormwater, Jared says that's about what it's gonna cost for the new SWIP stuff, which is pretty extensive. So we're looking at 130 total engineering
For next
for
year.
the whole city, yeah. Yeah. So, which I will tell you with that new SWIP stuff. So my husband is with Kaysville and he is their SWIP guy. His job went from like it more than double with the new regulations. Yeah. It used to be like he could do other things. Now he only does SWIP inspections. That's all he does all day.
So that being said,
That's right.
where this contract is over $25,000 with JBB, shouldn't that have to be put out with an RFP?
They're a sole proprietor because of our sewer, that state audit.
So it's,
Right.
so if something broke, they come out and fix it? That kind of what you're saying?
No, because of our
they-
engineering system. Because of our sewer system. That JUB are the ones that did that, we can count JUB as a sole proprietor because there's not another engineering firm that understands our sewer
Specifically
system
for sewer, though. They don't have to-
specifically.
They don't have to do it in our general.
Yeah.
No,
That's-
we could put that out.
You could have 2 engineers.
And that's $80,000 or $60,000 budget, no, not even, sorry,
Yeah.
well, that's over a limit of 25,000, to create an RFP.
You could have 2 engineering firms. If you feel like that would be more cost effective,
If we're
more
saving
cost
money,
effective.
why not?
Hmm.
I mean, how do they give you a bid bill or a estimate of what they're gonna do throughout a calendar year? When you throw this at them and that at them,
Mhm.
how do you even bid that? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
do stuff
Who
like
knows?
that. And plus, like with your meetings, are you gonna have 2 engineers there? As opposed to 1, because one's there for your sewer, one's there for all your other. Now, are you gonna have 2 engineers at your prep meeting? I guess then you just double the charge to the other, but.
That's sole proprietor, where do we find that? When
Sole
we're-
provider is
Yeah,
what
sole
it would be.
proprietor.
Yeah.
Where do you find that?
You can look up a definition of it.
I mean,
Or he's probably saying the code.
yeah.
Utah
Mm.
code.
Oh, in the
Oh,
Utah State
yeah.
Code, I don't know, in our Utah State Code. You could, I could have to Google that in the Utah State Code. that talks about
Yeah.
it.
If it's a sole provider, I know it's a bit,
Yeah.
because, you know, who do you bet against? Itself. So. Yeah.
Can you find out more things or when there's.
Yeah, I can try. I don't like the state's code.
Just a thought,
It's confusing.
No, that's a good thought.
we're talking about all these RFPs, and we got engineering.
And yours truly is
No.
over 25 grand too.
But I'm an appointed position, so I.
Oh, yeah?
fall under that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was appointed under your administration, so, and that's something. accounting
Unless you want to
appointed.
appoint someone.
No, no, no.
No hard feelings.
same job, I mean,
No,
Cammy's not doing the job.
no, Cammy was appointed as the treasurer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
While
I'm
you were
appointed
there.
as
So-
treasurer. This is part of the treasurer position.
Yeah, and that's one that.
It's to
you
oversee
don't
the
put out.
So we're talking about two different things, so.
Yeah.
You're talking about two different things. You're talking about.
So I don't have to be RFP because I was appointed,
Mhm.
but the engineer was not appointed. And your attorney's not appointed.
We just had state auditor tell us we had to do RFPs or anything we can't that.
Unless they're appointed.
Unless they're appointed, but our
Or a
engineers
sole
not-
proprietor.
Well, we can-
I know, it sounds like a circle, I agree.
Well, it's like, it's just like you said, if you want to have two engineers, we can do that. If you want to do an RFP for a general and an RFP for sewer, but then they come to our meeting, then we have two engineers.
I'm just trying to get around the state requirement for RFPs,
I know, they're such a pain.
like, how do we,
And for small cities, it's
how
just
do we
like,
get around that by making them the sole proprietor strictly for sewer? And now all of a sudden, a sole proprietor for everything in engineering, or city. You know, what I mean?
Understood.
mhm, I see that.
Why is that okay, but it's not okay with everything else? I don't know, just thoughts.
I don't know,
I'm just
Very
throwing
good thought, yeah.
And we can do an RFP if you want to for engineering. too.
I just didn't know if it was legally required from the state.
Yeah,
Well, the states tell us all these things we have to do.
you know
Yeah.
what, it's frustrating for, I even see it with small cities, you know, like Hubbard and other small cities. That all of a sudden now you've got all these regulations, the EPA is, you know, the SWIFT is a prime example. And then all these state things like, you know, the new plan that you gotta do water efficiency, well, we're small cities. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another
Yeah.
thing too with RFPs
Bingo.
too, I mean, this is contract, it's a little bit different, but if there's a state contract, even with our bids, you don't have to have three bids if you have a state contract.
Right.
So that's something
Another-
that's different,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
Okay, what other
Okay.
questions? did you have?
anyway,
information technology, that almost doubled, is that because we're just upgrading things, or
mhm.
did any of that need to go out for bid, was it over five?
No, that one, I believe the situation is that we are doing additional equipment. And then also, additional, that's also for like your different licenses for your software.
Okay,
That and like your, security and stuff like that. So I don't believe any of that needed to,
well,
We
it
changed
did,
out, we changed out a server because that we didn't pass on the cybersecurity.
gotcha,
so this
We
is
didn't
some
actually have
additional.
a
So
server.
you're saying that doesn't have to go up to bid, or it should?
Because part of it's equipment. That is nits and pieces.
okay,
Looks like we
so,
already paid for that this year though.
But we're anticipating of doing some more additional upgrades. So that's not just.
And it
the
might not be that
service.
much.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a number
Yeah.
we could look at. And
We could probably cut that down a little bit if you want.
so you got utilities cut in half, is that?
Because that's, I'm not seeing that you're spending that
Okay,
much in
all right,
utilities.
so I'm just going through.
Yeah,
where I see-
yeah, very good questions, because it was, we've spent 45. Is about,
Is this training, no, the training 4,000, would that be something, because I know we need someone else to get a sewer license. It's Jerry.
this isn't that sewer training,
Okay.
this is just in your
For, like,
operating, so this is
operating.
like Morgan and,
Okay.
yeah. This
Utilities,
people.
we spent 7,300
A what?
and 75% for the year.
So maybe bump that up.
I would say utilities should be.
well, and when this was done, we
10,000.
didn't have this, so we can, we had received this before that, so I'm sure there's things.
Yeah, that's up it. That's great. Oh, there's our computer programs was the 20.
I was
so
gonna
maybe
say, I
like 50.
calculate the information technology, the invoices from. What's their name? Cross Action. So like
Okay.
their billing and invoicing to us, I put under information technology,
Okay.
just because Teresa had put Bob's
Under that.
invoicing under
Yeah, which
Infotech.
we want to stay consistent,
So-
so that would be good. Good job, Morgan. So we spent
Thank you.
31.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Patents just off of that. So we spent 31,000
Mm.
to date. So probably 40 is probably pretty accurate. But yeah, that is the question whether we need to do an RFP on that then.
31,000, that seems a little. I can do better.
I think we're on information technology.
Yeah,
Did
I
we
jumped
jump
back
back
up
up?
to information technology, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm jumping. You're supposed to keep up with me. So, no. So yeah, that's 31.
Part of that too is not a monthly, part of that was changing out of this server.
Yeah, it was a lot
So
of
I wonder if we
We
upgrading,
didn't have a
decrease
server,
that then.
we didn't, so it was
fixing our phone system because it
Yeah.
was out of whack and.
trying to get everything in compliance with the
So we
cybersecurity.
maybe could go down on that, maybe.
The
I
info,
would think so,
30,
probably.
okay,
it was a lot of updating and fixing and changing.
step that down to 30 then. I'm gonna post it. Any other questions on that operating?
Okay, well,
Mhm.
supplies have gone up quite a bit, those are just some things they must have gone up.
Yeah. But we've spent quite a fair amount and I don't think our staff goes too crazy with supplies, but. I don't know, Morgan, you need to
Morgan's
have
got
that,
staff.
you gotta re-slick those envelopes.
Carefully peel them apart.
Okay, so
Okay,
employees. that was good.
employees,
So the public safety, that's, is that kind of an indication of what they're gonna increase this to,
mhm,
Sherry?
they've told us 30,000.
Okay, so 769.30,
Mhm.
okay.
Next year it's going to be quite substantially more.
Yeah,
Like
brace yourself.
150,000.
So like 27 budget?
Mhm.
Did they explain why? You know, because there used to be a system to that, is that whether you paid on population or the amount of calls.
It still is that, it's so,
So how's that division, how do they divide that, like what percent, have they talked about that?
yeah, they have, and they'll send that out to us. But in fact, it probably was in that thing we already got, but it is so much population and so much cost, but
Do you
even
know
with
what
that.
percent of each? No, but do you know if it's 60%?
64.
It was 60-40. See, at one time it was 50-50.
Or it was fighting for 70-30 at one time.
Yeah,
Years
we
ago.
almost,
I
Had that
think you did
again.
too.
but it makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
The higher the percent on calls,
Because
is
West
more
Haven-
fair. It's a lot more fair.
West Haven comes out again next year.
No.
Because
No,
of-
now they pay a lot,
Well, they have a lot more call volume.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
So they pay less because of their calls are higher.
That
Well, the
doesn't make
population
sense.
went up too, so,
Washington Terrace pays a fortune,
yes,
they have a population smaller than us.
yes.
Bunch of crazies up there.
Hey, I just like one.
Well,
Give
another
people
another
down
thing
West
they're-
Street.
another thing they're gonna correct
You seen the
that
skid
though,
marks
is a lot
on
of
the
the calls
street?
was based by. zip
There's
code.
race.
So they think some of Washington Terraces was actually emergency calls that were there that would possibly been going out to the, from that.
I'll consider.
Yeah, well, they have all their nursing homes.
Hmm.
I mean, they have even like the hospital. Anyway, they're gonna go through and evaluate that too and look at. So we could get some that's Davis County people because they had arson and also West Point now because of their arson. So,
Oh, West Point's talking annexing 135 homes,
Mhm.
so. The zip code might change. I'm gonna push for it, I'm gonna push it. Quite well.
the Tater party, yes, we were asking about something.
Just,
I asked them that.
it was those
Because
3
they-
mailboxes were gone,
That's my show.
It's like, I don't know what else. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
Somebody-
You have that recorded, babe?
Okay, so let's go to this page.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
which one?
And then-
Let's see.
How much at this point?
Yeah, but it was
And
there.
more reasons than one.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so which page you on, 4?
Or
So we got
recreation.
Recreation, okay.
Recreations. So,
So in the past, we found out that the community events and education was paying for your health fair, your Easter egg hunt and your Halloween haunt. So we found out that information. we had already budgeted additional for your Halloween haunt and your Easter, but then we decreased your community events and education, and we gave your health fair its own line. Would you like your own line for CERT as well?
Sure. Okay, so we pay for the community fair? Is that what you're? is that
Just
what you
a
said?
2,500 for a health fair. Yeah,
What's this 19,500?
we decreased that to 5,000. And that was,
Yeah.
yeah, we decreased to that because
Did the
after we
budget,
found that out,
she put
yeah.
all community events in that 19,500.
That makes sense.
So it looked like that we didn't have any money in there for Halloween, for Easter, but we did. It just. came
Was in
out
a
of-
different spot,
Yeah.
so we
Okay.
found that out. How much do you guys wanna give CERT?
5%.
Do you want that as part of your emergency? Wasn't there somewhere else that had
No.
some money?
Sure, I'll take more, but no,
You
as long
don't?
as the 5% is in, I don't care what
Yeah.
you call it. As long
Okay,
as
but
it's
that
not-
5% is held aside, but then it's not accounted for that you can spend it, because are you using it for your training of certs? And
There's some-
your
there's some things the county
certifications?
is Kind of, yeah, it reimbursed the people that go to serve.
Yeah, that type of
The
stuff, so you
county's
probably
requesting
need,
us that we should probably get some supplies and some things for our city, because we're
Mhm.
share right now with West Haven it's up at Rocky Mountain and. I think we need our own, so there's some things we need
So-
to purchase.
So do you want that 5% to pay for that? Or you
Yeah.
wanting it,
Yeah.
oh, so you
okay,
don't need a separate account here,
No.
then you're, okay.
okay,
No.
well, then I'm gonna put
So-
16,000 as an expense
Okay.
here, but then on the same token, I'm gonna go to the revenue side. And I'm gonna give a $16,000 revenue, because we'll use that fund balance. If we're gonna do this,
Yeah,
okay,
Okay, so tomato days, we got. This is my question. So does it look like, is 150, is that the budget? Is that what
so.
I'm seeing?
Yeah, I'm trying to, basically, yeah, we have the 100 that we usually spend.
Okay.
Which we usually bring in 80. So we're 20 in the hole, and then this 500 or this 50 is also for the grant, is what I was trying to say for the grant. I'm trying to get Erin to kind of give each
So
item
So
an expense, you
is
know?
there a way we can stay in budget, like, since we have that 50,000? Huh? Or under budget and.
I would love to, that'd be
I
awesome,
think I
yeah,
think we probably need to.
yeah, we probably could. I mean,
so in the past, Ryan, we usually came out ahead about 20 or 30,000, but we did get grants.
Right.
Last year, we didn't get any grants, and so we weren't, but if you go back and I have a spreadsheet I can show you there, so prior to that, we really did come out ahead about 20 or 30, and if you do come out,
20 to 30,000.
we did.
We made 20 or 30,000.
well, that's why we started doing that
We did.
additional
So
part in your
So we should
financial.
we should be okay
kind of-
this year.
we should
then.
be okay, and but what I would like to see, and I talked to Cami, because I always ask, couldn't we put that money then in the community events fund?
Or-
No, we're not doing sports.
A coordinating class?
It's a lot of work. Or if you went in the house, it's a lot of work.
Oh, for the dinner.
Dinner.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
corn on the
I
cob.
got you.
I was like, corn? We're
Yeah.
gonna grow corn?
But it'd be good to have a separate account, so it's so I have that extra money.
Eating
to go to-
contest.
And I used to say, how can I go to a sponsor and say, will you give us money, and then it might repair a pothole? No, that should be a separate account.
Okay.
So
So,
we're thinking that going forward, if we do have excess, we'll just put
Yeah.
it in as a restricted fund balance.
Yeah.
I think Aaron could get us some numbers like. the
I'm-
cars. Does the car show usually cost money? Cause I know they charge an entry fee.
Yeah, and that's what I'm not sure.
So-
Like the idea with, cause I do the baby
Right.
show. The idea is that they would
Is that
pay
what she-
for, yeah, I get a donation from Child Richard CP as an advisor. Cause we do donate.
This will cost 150,000 for
well,
tomato
we,
days.
well, no, because you get sponsors. They have to put so much money in the budget to account for when we get
Mhm.
sponsors.
So they're.
So
Yeah,
you
So
have that
that's
150 in
20,000
expenses, but you have 80,000 plus a 50,000 in revenue. So you have to have the revenue separate from the expense, so they have to kind of So if you added those two up, don't start that.
We're almost done, right?
Sure, I can go as long as
You know
you
what?
want.
I
I got me a diet
Not
coke, I'm
last
good.
The year before, I actually used to break it down by event, because the goal was an event should pay for itself. So like the car show, for example, we didn't charge an entrance fee necessarily for it to be in it, but everything was donated. Like, Corey would donate the trophies. We had a sponsor that donated those car plaques they get. So every event, in my thinking, should pay for itself.
Right.
The only one that really didn't was the rodeo, but we have enough sponsors to pay, and this year we'll have a few more bleachers that we think we're gonna print more tickets. So most events really do pay for themselves. Well, except for like fireworks, there's no way to get income for fireworks, and grants can't be used for fireworks, but the grant can be used for the concert.
So, and I talked to Aaron that we're not going to print the fees until we go through those. Because realistically, like, prime example, baby show, I can't give a $5 gift. Prize, you know, nobody wants a $5 prize, so we're gonna have to up entry fee to like, you know. A little bit more,
10,
yeah, maybe 10, so they can get something worth getting, you know? Even Sheen doesn't have things worth getting for 5. So.
Okay.
Anyways,
We can turn the page, right?
okay,
So can I just point something out?
Oh,
Just with this current year budget, and this is what I struggle with every single year with our budget, is we're page 5. We're 75% through the year, and we spent 53% of our budget.
yeah,
On this page.
I didn't do last year's budget,
know.
and I'm hoping to
I'm
have that
trying
be
to get
better.
closer to what we actually budget to spend.
That is the idea of a budget, not to fluff it.
So, and that being said, then we should have more money somewhere. When we're not budgeting as much, because we're not spending as much. Correct?
Well, you say that, but
You see what I'm saying?
we are spending $30,000 right off on your, police services,
Well, no.
you know,
You
so,
see what I'm
yes,
saying?
I see what you're saying,
So,
What page do you
yes.
want?
on page 5.
that's what we're really trying to do, is get more accurate.
yes, I am trying to get
So
more
we
accurate.
budgeted on this one, and granted, we've got $350,000 in there in the CARES Act ARPA fund that we're not gonna have to spend anything. We can take that out. So in essence, we budgeted $500,000 on this page from this year's budget, and we've spent
454,
454. So
That's
it's actually
really not
skewed,
that far,
it's skewed because of the CARES Act thing.
Yeah.
Never mind.
yeah,
I
good
didn't-
question though, good
Yes.
thought process,
I didn't see the CARES Act thing.
Yeah.
Skewed it so bad.
yeah, that
Okay,
does
never
cute.
mind.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm off the hook.
So why was that on there? Why was that 350 on there if we didn't have? We were spending the first place? And I mean.
PC.
PC.
Before
Flip the
Gabby.
page.
Yeah,
I don't know, good question,
Sorry.
you're good.
Forget
You're good. So,
Bryce, would you have other questions on pages?
no, page 5, I'll just keep public
I
works
was-
equipment. It was 20 this year, and now it's on the budget 5. Are they okay on their equipment? I just don't want to shortchange those guys.
well, so what I did is I took that instead of there, it's in capital budgets, where it should be,
Okay.
not in your operating.
And
So, yeah.
that's all I have. So the next page, on the,
Fussy,
reclamation overlay roads.
yeah, so we sat down with Jared and we
Okay.
said, what can you, he came to us in one meeting and he says, I can do all these things, here's the money I need, and I says, Jared, what can you actually manage?
Okay.
What can you actually accomplish? And he came back and basically gave us these
Yeah.
numbers.
That-
you
that's
gave us a new
that
sheet.
1,098,000, that's what I'm talking.
He says him and Cody can manage that and actually do that and get some roads repaired.
Which is actually how many miles, like 5.
I think it's like 5 or 6 miles. Yeah, so, yeah, yeah. so I told him, I says, I'm gonna shoot for you and see if you can do that, and if the budget is approved with that, then you need to show me that you can actually do that. If you can't do that, then I'm not gonna give you that much next year. How's that for being mean?
And then
So,
parks equipment, the same scenario.
same thing, yep, it's over in your
Yeah.
general. fund. Or your capital projects.
Yeah, the contract services, what is that?
What page
Where are you
on?
under?
Oh, nine, oh, sorry.
Contract services, oh, community development and
Oh,
inspections,
Development,
right there, contract. Services.
services. Look at that postage bill. Just kidding you. Yeah.
Get the right discount.
I know, I was trying to get a air, raise of a hat or something with Ryan. Yeah. Depending upon what they're
This
mailing,
is just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did have one question back on page 8 on the
Oh, yeah.
cemetery. I know salaries and wages. Why is that gone down so much?
Allocation again.
percentages.
We went through allocations. Employees time,
Or somewhere it went up.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so you had asked about
Contract service,
the contract services on
page 9.
community development inspections. I believe that is our inspections.
Yeah, that's Nate
Your
Tolman,
building
Jeff Woody.
inspector.
He gets paid. I mean,
Jeff, Nate gets the majority, he does the majority of it, so his bill's higher than
Okay.
Jeff and Mike.
but that's kind of a pass through, because it's charged to the person that has the building, right?
Building. permit.
Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah, there's an inspection
So it's
fee
not
that they
costing
pay
us.
for. Mm-mm.
All right.
Next.
On page 10, it went up, salary and wages for cemetery, a $50,000 charge. What we didn't have before.
So that being said, with the changes we've made. Our total income is at 4 million. Our expenditures are at 5 million. So we're at a deficit of 1 million. However, we have some class C roads that we can spend. That are restricted, that have not been spent of about 1 million. So really, we're only at a $35,000 deficit.
And we're not dipping into the road fund balance.
That's taking all the road impact, all the class C roads money
Right.
and the restricted portion over here.
If it's our balance like 4 or something.
It's actually, so we have two parts to that. We have a road restricted for roads funds is 1.4, 1041. And then our restricted for local option is 1.3. We can only use those funds for roads, so that's accounting for what we can use of that money, that's restricted. So we will have more for next year.
That can pay for Jared's projects.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thought. Yeah, is that this money that is in the expenses right here, these class C roads, that whole category right there. This 1.5 is being paid for with
Future money.
no, not future money, old money. So it's being paid for with your income for the class C roads that I'm suspecting you'll get 550 income. And then the remaining is from these restricted monies that are restricted for that use. So that's the maximum amount we can use of that class C, but it leaves us some for in the future.
So we're not being the whole, or kept whole, or not fund.
Yes,
Like you would say,
basically, we're
or using it all.
no, we're keeping some. So. I another spreadsheet for that. Or she does. Brian's like, why did I say anything? So here's our balance. This is the roads and the local option. That's the total amount. Income that I'm expecting year to date. Our expenses remaining year to date, so that would give us a total of 2.6 that we could spend at the first of that year. So, well,
Sorry.
that's okay. So if we do the road project next year, we're expecting 550 income. We would be able to spend that much. We would still have 1.5 of restricted for just roads. So not until year 2028 do we have to dip into fund balance to continue those road projects.
Right.
And then at that point, we've got some decisions to make.
Okay.
But we can continue to use those funds, which I think we might as well. That's what they're intended for. And our roads need it. There's no argument there, I think.
That's the number one.
Yeah. So if we can start using some of that monies to repair our
We
roads.
show that we're trying to do something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what my intentions was.
And every year there will be, because Jared said some of these subdivisions that were new at one time now aren't. Like Lakeview and Landings, and some of those are really in their repair now.
Okay, so right now, we would have to use 35,000 of our fund balance, which is basically our last year's savings. Do you want to do that, or do you want to cut?
How much are you anticipating
By what?
the end of the year for fund balance?
Well, I would like to see it increase, and I think we probably will.
Or What
compared
was
to
it, what
this.
was it year? Should we have like one,
We had,
just guessing, I can't have to be exact.
I wouldn't even. Let me think if I have anything that would show me that. I know on your budget, well, actually, you know what? No, that's not gonna give me a. I mean, on your budget, you were ahead 455, but there's that 350 in ARPA that we talked about,
So 150 each.
yeah. So I mean, we could afford to use some of it, and are we maybe a little heavy on some of them?
Yes.
Possibly. So, you know. But we don't wanna be right to the penny. Cause then we're in trouble, but. We wanna be not a lot of fluff either.
35,000 is not bad, if only got 150 fund balance.
No. And I do anticipate, I'll warn you. After looking at this, if we don't spend. I'm probably going to have to transfer some of this fund balance to your capital projects to not be over on that thing. So I think we've got the money, we're okay this year. To just absorb it unless you have heart problems with it.
A couple of things, so. I think I mentioned before about a furnace, we have a furnace, one of them that's needs to be repaired, and all of them are 22 years old. So I did get 3 bids for new furnaces. So in our budget, there was $100,000 for this building. And that was for the remodel, you know, if you haven't looked, you need to go see, they looked at those bathrooms and changed them. So that part so far, well, all of that, we've paid all out of the invoices, is $53,668 out of the 100,000. So we still have 47,000. I did I got 3 bids, and you're welcome to look at this, because we have the money in the budget, but we still need to decide if we want to do that. We can repair the one. All of them use the same cold air, so all 3 places said they would recommend us replacing for efficiency to do all of them. It's kind of like a used car, sometimes you keep paying more and more out.
Of course.
Yeah. I know. But it's up to you. So we had Trophy Air Heating, we had Mountain Home Services, and we had Aaron's that all gave bids, and we have enough money in here to do them. The least bid came in, and it was
What was the repair? bill?
Repair to fix one was going to be about, well, to repair, to just do one furnace is about $10,000. So you can take that, so to do all 4 furnaces and the new air conditioners, because now they're coming out with different. Well, anyway, even our air conditioners, even though they're newer, they're still 12 years old. So the least expensive bid was $38,400, and that was to do, and these are all energy efficient. Well, it's $39,600, but we would get $1,200 rebate, which we would with probably all of them. But that was still the least bid, and that was to replace all 4. So we had that bid, we had a
That's cheaper than residential.
46,000 one, and we had a
Yeah.
43,000.
Still not bad. And we've got
Did you get a bid
room.
from it? What's there's one of your neighbors in that new subdivision does HVAC, I can't remember her name.
I don't know.
Probably did.
I just
Eric's been
saw
there. I know
3 people
Eric.
I knew from Hooper, so
My
they could
Eric.
be,
You know Cheryl, Aaron. He's on your search committee.
And so we're buying
yeah.
64.
Oh, no, her.
Sure, yeah.
Oh.
It's late.
I like all 3 of the people,
Yeah.
so we don't necessarily, I mean, we have the budget money in there. So, but it's up to you. I like all 3 of them. I think all 3 of them would do really a good job. So-
AC units by themselves.
So that's furnace and AC
AC
for this building.
for this, we have 4 furnaces.
Yeah,
The AC units,
that's not bad.
It's getting hot in my office during the
We
day.
gotta take care of Morgan.
It's so hot. I'm like,
if you get a less efficient.
Again.
one,
Go for it.
5,000 if you get a
I've
more
twisted out in the
efficient.
office a few times.
Smell. We're not done. Did you bring
This
this
one
one?
just included.
We're having a sleepover.
I didn't see any more tabs in this.
Oh, you forgot the capital projects fund, Betty.
I did.
Yeah.
So do you want,
Sorry.
So we've got 47,000.
we have 47,000. Another consideration too is new cameras. So the cameras in here, they only stay for 60 days, and we found out
There's no backup storage. So once the 60, so typically with the newer camera system, this, I've learned all this recently. Anyways, after 60 days, it goes to a backup server that the company can withdraw, like can withhold for so long.
Okay.
Our current camera system, once that 60-day hits, it's like vanished off the earth.
You gave us some.
I did, yeah.
something. Is that
Yep.
the camera?
I gave I gave the bids in there.
But and I asked Jamie,
Oh, yeah,
to give
pictures.
her opinion from the kids, what she, from talking to them, and she thought that Geneva sounded the best. We can do this in phases. We do have to have cameras differently for the elections, because they have to be able to see license plate numbers.
Oh, cool.
So this
Well, that's the state legislature that decided that.
Well, even though it's Weaver County.
So these are the
Yeah,
cameras.
last year they told
I
us.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I have to staff 2 people outside of the door.
Well, it didn't pass. Now it's just, these last 4.
Oh, it's just the cameras.
You have to stop.
Well,
people
no,
with that.
that
Yeah.
didn't
The county
pass.
did. That was one of the things in the bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
what is it now?
The state, yeah, it didn't pass.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I didn't hear that fast.
Local legislature, oh, yeah.
But last
Great.
year, the county, Weaver County said that we had to have a camera. That's when
Yeah.
Jamie started getting these, because they said we had to have our cameras.
Our current camera hits the car on the side. They want us to be able to move the camera so they can see the license plate and then physically putting it in the box. So you have to move the camera. Yeah, off the building, but then our cameras are 20 years old, however old.
So
So
we
the,
could,
So this is the guy you liked, you said,
no, not him, the one that's on your right hand.
on this
this
one.
one,
Mhm.
SSA.
Yeah, so SSA in Geneva, I think sister.
So probably top priority would be the building and outside. There's a, probably next would be our shop area, because that's where the most expensive equipment is. After that would probably be the park. We
And the
probably have seen,
cemetery.
we've had some issues with the cemetery. The hard thing with the cemetery is getting a camera that can actually see the whole cemetery, because you get to the ridge and then those graves drop down. So we're thinking if we could do this probably in phases, that if, you would want to this year, like maybe try to do the building and the shop, and then maybe another year do parks, maybe another year do cemetery, or if you don't feel like you want to do it, this is up to you, and then.
If you have any questions, call Jamie. She's the one that's been doing
Okay.
the bids and
Just down on
contacting them.
tours with them and. So,
So this
I
one.
can't take credit for it.
Office,
not
so if we didn't want to say do the pickleball and park, we could just do office. Interior, exterior this year. or whatever.
Mhm.
yes,
What company is this?
That's the I don't have it in front of me. Whatever
Geneva.
Bryce, Geneva and SGGS or something.
Yes, that's it.
SSA.
this is who Hooper Water had, and they gave really good reviews too, that they thought, but.
I'm gonna be fine.
If I got you one more bid.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm gonna be fine.
I have a concern that does all this.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, anybody.
Collins for James, but she's been the one that's been doing.
Yeah,
all
Jamie's,
this.
yeah, I can't take credit for it.
And if you want to get more bids on furnace too, I'm not against that either. I knew we had to have 3 bids, but like you said, anybody else should like to call to get a bid for furnaces. But we do have,
Yeah,
to
but
like I said, we do have the money, but we do need to decide fairly soon about
Take my eyes
leasing
off
them.
it.
Want some Diet
So we either
Coke?
do the one, because again, they all share the
Glad I
power there,
got that.
so should be fine, but
Yeah, it's my bedtime.
so we, there is.
Are the EC units actually not working, or are they just 12 years old?
They said that when
The
they got
one-
into them, they.
Yeah,
the
I was
other
gonna say
ones-
the one in the furnace that operates my room in the back 4 offices, that they keep repairing whatever parts tripping the whole system. So we'll have to for sure replace whatever's making that happen, but. Again, I don't.
And they did undo the front, and one was all
Should we talk
rusty
about
on the
capital
inside.
projects?
Yes.
That might help you.
Dude.
Okay,
I
let's
think
talk
we
about
have-
capital projects and that
There is
might help
money-
you.
There is money in.
Right, we have
Yes.
100.
We have the 100, so we do have
Yeah.
47 that we could do. Yes.
And then that might give you some insight.
Maybe, the one guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
Your
want-
neighbor,
I remember it's, I think he filed for a business license.
I'll find out,
Okay,
but they've just been on the point.
okay.
What about, you didn't reach out to your Joe, or who's the guy in your ward that does it?
He's one of the bids.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Drew
Oh,
Tubbs.
Drew,
So
yeah.
there was
He did
Drew
my
Tubbs.
son's.
There
Yeah.
was Dave Taylor
Okay.
is the other one, and then Mike Arent. So all 3 were Hooper Cooper, yeah. Dave Taylor's was the lowest.
Oh,
Surprise,
Hey,
surprise.
Cammy. let's wrap it
Okay.
up.
Let's finish this up. That sounds fun. Come on. Well, okay, I got 50,000 in your parks impact fees income. We've got the ramp grant, that we're expecting to get. 50,000 in interest. And then we also budgeted 400 from the general fund. Doesn't mean we'll have to transfer that whole amount if, money that we don't want to transfer there, we can do that.
I'm gonna ask you a question. You're probably gonna cover it, but I'll forget.
You're good.
Okay,
the
so
way.
grant grants, we've got, sounds like we got 3 of them.
We
So
actually have 4.
4, so the money that we have to match, is that in here?
Yes.
Okay.
So the net effect of those ramp grants, the power, we have to do 3,000. The bleachers, we have to do 25,000. And the pickleball lawn, we have to do 5,000.
That's on page 1 under
Okay,
capital
thank you.
projects, long-term. So go
Our
3 pages in.
Is 3,000. So we got
That
the
guy.
269 in. And those projects will cost us. So the net effect is we're gonna spend $33,000 on those. So then the expenses are below, but on the capital projects, it kind of breaks it out better. So we have a 0-turn lawnmower. In addition to the ramp grant stuff, we have the pickleball sprinklers. We have fencing for the yard. The public works yard. Jared has a major concern that needs to be done because of theft, possible theft. Not saying that there is any, but it's just definitely got a steal me option, you know, flashlights. And then a $10,000 for the sprinkler system in the cemetery.
So that, is that for the new phase or?
Mm,
what's that?
No, so
No.
currently the cemetery waters from the canal,
Okay,
but next year we have to be watering from pressurized, but the pipes within the actual cemetery itself, they said won't hold the pressure of the pressurized. So after the water goes out this year, they're gonna replace those pipes in the cemetery.
I was thinking maybe it was for, because I know you wanted trees, and we suggested we do a drip system or something so that we.
Yeah, no, and
That's not
no,
allowed.
and we'll wait till they get all the sprinkler done. We had someone that was willing to donate the trees, but that would be in the fall anyway, and it wouldn't be that much money.
So that's what we're looking at, capital projects. So we would basically be spending 316,000 of our fund balance. But we do have the fund balance to spend. That's why I was like, maybe this might answer your other question. Again, I have a spreadsheet for that. The accountant's best friend, as you can't tell. Here's your unrestricted cash. Your
More
meeting
entertaining than
expenses.
The night goes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good luck getting a little delusion.
You haven't met my mom. Sorry. So total income next year, we're expecting 719. Our expenditures would be there. So if we continue, I mean, we still got only 195 change in cash if we do what's projected for the next 5 years with our capital projects. So we've got some money there that we can spend. We're okay with capital projects.
We don't have an amount yet for those two that would like to do, but Jared said he'll get that, you know, the 4,600 road
Oh,
and the
yeah.
6,300.
Which I have kind of some placeholders in there to try and give our best guess, the 5,100 and the 5,500. We said 3,400 and 500.
Yeah, those are already obligated.
Oh, but then there was.
Yeah, those
additional-
are, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, those are.
so
different.
evidently there's some additional ones that I wasn't thinking of. That's right, there was those other two,
Mhm.
that the road's falling in.
Yeah.
But that's what the capital projects fund is there for, is to do big projects and we've increased the fund balance for the last several years and never spent it.
How much is it actually in the capital market? Is that on?
So on your capital project fund right now, you've got 4.1 million in your cash. 88,000 of that.
She's looking at the
I'm
March
just looking at your March
financials.
financials. 88,000 of that is parks impact fees, which we're gonna use some of that for the bleachers. So you'd have about 25,000 of that spent for the bleachers. So. We've got a fair amount of money there. So if you wanted to, you know, say yes, go ahead and do the heating and air conditioning unit this year and let's budget for the cameras out of there. That's an idea. That's why I was
Cameras
thinking
would be a capital.
we could count those as a capital project. We could. It's up to you. You guys get to make the decision.
And also that sewer line. Too, we could
fund that.
and then, like we say, if we get that as impact fees, then the money would go back.
I would propose doing that as a loan from the capital project fund to sewer fund. That way, when you get those impact fees, it just pays back that loan. But we could, you know, probably, I'd have to double check that. I'm pretty sure we could do like a either really low interest or 0% interest from ourselves to them. And then just pay it back as we have those impact fees come in, you know? But then that way it's not, or you can option to transfer from your capital projects to the sewer fund. You have those options. The only reason why I steer more towards a loan is because you don't have 100% of your residents on the sewer. Whereas it kind of seems and feels like you're taking money from those who have done the rest. That's up to you. That's your decision.
I'm not making a decision right now, is that what?
Okay, that's fine.
So what about purchasing?
What would you like me to put in the budget though for you to approve? Because
Yeah.
I don't believe we have another meeting before the, or for the tentative approval.
Oh, we don't.
No,
Um,
doesn't mean we can't have another one, because I've had a great party, you guys.
that's a-
I do what I can.
Was 32,000, so this is the office exterior, and the shop was 32,000. And then
Yeah, we're scheduled to approve the tentative budget on May 15th.
14, I believe, was the park, but I could be wrong. Was the next one the park?
I think so. The other one's got it specified on what it was.
How many?
Oh, yeah,
issues have
sewer.
we had
There's
at the
sewer.
park in a year? Oh, you probably don't know.
There's this
Right.
one too,
Right,
because they
sure.
said we probably should, I mean, that's an option.
May
A
15th.
phase, we should
May
have a
15th
meeting our
is the
sewer
next one.
stations, because they said if anybody ever broke in there and do
And then
damage.
we have to have it open for public inspection for a
And
few
I think the
days.
cemetery was the last one.
And
Aren't you
the
on
notice
it?
sent.
Aren't you
that
gone, June? What day were you?
June
was the
19th
least
is when I
because it
was
was
hoping
only
to
one.
approve it, but we don't have council.
It
The
was
week
the
before
least.
that, I'm out of town,
What's the total for all?
and Sherry
we
wanted to
did
see
all
if we
of
wanted to do a council meeting about the approval.
Yeah, it was.
Because the next one is
Okay,
July.
look, but I put my paper away, so.
then.
It's not- Oh, it's not?
Well, they broke them down
Oh.
broken down separate. So to do the building exterior and the shop is was this 32,000. I'm pretty sure this
Between
next
the
one was
19th
the
and the
park,
3rd.
I believe, and it was the 14,000. I, no, I take that back, 29,411.
We could do the.
The park, it looks like the sewer cameras were 27,693. And I'm not seeing the cemetery, but there was one that was cemetery.
Cause then that puts them.
I think it's 7,000.
Yeah, it was the least.
The
because it was
12th is
just one
planning
county.
commission.
And that's the problem. You would only
So
get.
yeah, we'd have to do
can't-
the
you can't
26th,
go.
or we could do
It's just
a
impossible.
Tuesday night and do the 17th. Well, when are we going?
Yeah.
Maybe on the 17th.
I think so, it's, well, maybe I'm
I'm
wrong,
just
because it did last that one.
Let's do the schedule.
Right.
Thinking we
Yeah,
could
to
do
do
the June
That's
19th.
right.
Schedule
I think
my
that
vacation.
this building, our sewer.
Right.
And the
Yeah,
shop.
Jared.
We should, we just
shop
have to
even
approve it by June
We
30th.
haven't had a
Oh, really?
problem.
Do you have to get it on the website by June 30th?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it has to be on the state hospital.
Yeah.
June 30th.
Does that give you enough time to do that?
I can have it all. That's what I just literally click a button.
Okay, one thing too, we have had 3 people turn in applications for planning commission.
Mhm.
So Malcolm will be back next Wednesday and so we thought we'd have on the agenda next Thursday to have a name. But is there somebody, Brandon had given that list, I think Morgan sent out to everybody of what he felt like we should do with as far as the selection, because it's now collectively. Is there somebody from city council that would like to be representative on that?
That thing that you sent out from Brandon, isn't that what we did before? That's just how.
No. So before, they would come in and interview, and I included, well, I asked Debbie before, no, I don't know how you did it before. And then I would,
The last time
yeah,
you did.
yes, and then I
thought-
would appoint a name, and then it would be voted on. This time, Brandon said, if you do a collective, we never came up with collectively how we're going to do it. So that was his suggestion. It kind of involves all the entities. If they all collectively come up with a name, it still goes back to city council that you still vote on. But you can't have any more than, yeah, I mean, if you have like.
So he says
myself and two
mayor.
and-
He says mayor, one member from the council, planning commission chair, and city planner. The city council should choose what city council member would like to be on that committee.
So
Can you write down, I know you probably don't want to, or can you tell us who applied?
I can tell you who.
Okay.
Jessica Smith, Travis Bates, Nate Denning. Is it Denning?
Denny.
Denny,
Denny.
Denny.
But if there's somebody that next, because Malcolm won't be back, he's on vacation till next Tuesday. But if we could get together on Wednesday and vote, or, you know, come collectively, it's not a vote, it's just a
The
collectively,
committee.
the committee, then on Thursday, then that could be at city council, and then the city council will vote.
So. Or, because this is brand new, I mean, we haven't done this before, so are all three names presented to us, or do we pick before? Cause I really.
Do they come in?
Because they
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah, but then.
Who was the
Pick
fifth?
one and
Yes,
recommend
Travis,
one.
who was the
Nate
fifth?
Denning.
Nate Denny.
Nate.
He was right next to, Zog. I'm not long off.
He's in.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's the new guy, but
oh, yeah,
Not the guy that's
the vacuum.
running up.
yeah, Wendy.
He sold it now.
Which is,
Yeah.
Yeah, they sold it.
Yeah.
Wendy was
Not the
sold.
guy that's running
Oh, they did?
landscape.
Yeah, Nate and, or Dave and Dave,
oh, where's he?
Dave and Mark
Really?
sold it.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Where's the other one?
Brandon said
Um,
he doesn't really like the idea of talking about the people in front of everybody.
Right.
So if you had, and we never really differentiated what collectively was going to mean. So he felt like until we get something better delineated in ordinance, this would probably be the best way to go around about doing it. And he said, let city council pick whoever they want to come be on that committee next Wednesday. And if this doesn't work and you don't like what name the committee comes up with, then you vote them down and then we redo it. So.
I don't know, I'd prefer just to have the person that we decide on. You know, kind of make that decision prior, not in a quorum.
Not put on the spot.
Yeah,
Public
yeah,
hearing,
'cause that's not fun.
right? So the committee would present the name, the one
Yeah.
name,
Yes, the
Yeah.
committee would
We
present the one,
chose.
yes,
and then we would know about it before. the
Yes.
meeting,
Yeah,
Who that
Yeah.
person is. So you can
Yeah.
have an idea.
yeah.
So who's on the committee? Planning commission, city council, mayor.
Malcolm.
And then,
mhm.
but you need to give her
But-
who.
Who
So-
wants to come?
So,
Who you guys-
just to kind of clearing up, so. Malcolm and the planning commission
Chair.
chair. I mean, they really don't say, it's between the mayor and the city council. So I just want to clear that up. So if Malcolm says, well, I like this guy, well. It's not his decision.
Yeah.
Which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea is that you kind of have 4 different views and 4 people discussing their thoughts on it. And then at the end of the day, maybe the mayor and the council member could agree
Sure.
on who they're going to
Right.
recommend.
Yeah.
But at least they bring a different idea and a
Yeah.
different thought process.
That's fine, yeah, I just. You know,
Just
it's-
that, I
it's
think.
not- I understand.
Can you do it? And what time?
I don't think I can.
I don't know. I don't know. We could do it whenever. I'm
Let's throw
assuming,
Lisa in there.
I don't know, but Lisa could, it would be good if
Oh.
she could, but with dance, I don't know if she really. We could ask though. But I'm assuming because all these individuals, well, I would assume are working, probably we wouldn't set up the appointments till maybe like 4:30 and 5, or 3:30, 4 and 4:30, or.
Once you play it by ear, that's what's been like.
So these 4 people will recommend someone to you and the city council.
Well, I was thinking kind of like Cammy said, at the end of the interviews, the 4 people would sit and kind of discuss, and I guess if it comes down that they can't agree, then maybe you have a rating system. I don't know. We never really came up with
But your,
how we're
your
going to do
council,
it.
whoever that committee is, would recommend somebody, yes.
And that
But
counts.
then
To the
and
council.
the mayor
Mhm.
final decision
Yeah,
That
but
one
you-
councilman, as to who would come
to
to.
who to recommend in the city council.
Mhm. But you can only recommend one person in the city council meeting.
Yeah.
You can't recommend, so you basically got a quorum, or not a quorum, but a group,
Committee.
a committee, yeah, thank you. To make that decision of who that recommendation's going to be. And then based upon that,
Well, another thought process is they all three come to the meeting and you vote on them.
I don't know.
Kind of singles and.
Well, it does, but
It's uncomfortable.
they're
That's
gonna be,
uncomfortable.
two are gonna be, but
Oh, yeah, two aren't gonna be invited.
two aren't gonna be invited anyway, so,
Yeah.
anyway.
Hmm.
Maybe just play
Yeah,
that by
if
ear
they
next
were gonna
week.
vote, we could just vote before.
Almost kind of.
Yeah, you could just
want.
vote before the meeting, or, day or two before, or.
The
Soon as we
earliest we
feel-
can do it is Wednesday, because that's when Malcolm will be back if you want to do an interview. This is what Brandon said to do. But if there's
Yeah.
one of you, we could try it this time and see, and if
Or
it doesn't work,
have Morgan instead of Malcolm. As a staff member. Just throwing it out.
Hey,
well, and
Hey.
Morgan can be in there too. I think maybe Malcolm will go there, because he's the city planner that will probably be working with him, but like you say. Is there somebody from city council that would be willing to come?
Comes on a day.
So for sure it's Wednesday.
And the time,
So if you planned on Wednesday at like 4 o'clock,
I can't come till after 5 or at 5.
and we could have the first ones like at 5:30, and for 5:15 and 5:30, if that would work. Brian, if you would want to come Wednesday,
I can, but I can't come to the meeting Thursday, so I have graduation at UVU Thursday night.
well, you could still come.
Yeah.
Do you
Is
want
it
to
your
come Wednesday then?
I can.
And then you still have the name, and then
And then I can
yeah.
tell everybody who the name is.
Yeah.
If everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
one more thing real quick. I guess we're not meeting June 19th. For council because it's Juneteenth.
Oh, yes, it's a holiday. We need
It's a
to
holiday.
decide. What do
I
you,
know.
what do you want to do with that? July
I'll take any
3rd
day.
is the day before the 4th, which is difficult, but we can't miss the 19th and the 3rd. But would you want to change and do maybe a meeting?
You're thinking
And
either
that-
the 26th.
Six.
Yeah,
Is the office closed Thursday?
I don't know if it is.
It's the silliest holiday in the world.
But you want to still have city council meeting on July 3rd.
You're gonna have to.
Could you schedule one on that 4th Thursday?
What about just doing the 26th?
If you did June 26th, then only have the one meeting to take the place for,
The two,
Because we've got to approve the budget.
you have to.
By the
approve
30th.
budget By the 30th.
Fifth Thursday, is it the fifth Thursday?
It'd be.
Fourth.
Fourth Thursday.
But yeah, the last one.
June 26th.
if we did it June 26th, we wouldn't necessarily probably need to have a meeting then on the 3rd.
Yeah,
I
Kinda
don't know,
kills
we
two
can
birds
do it
with
on
one
the
stone.
3rd, but it's kind of, I don't know.
Might be
Wednesdays
tricky.
would work.
Yeah, that's
and it
fine.
kills two birds with one stone. Okay,
So,
do you want to plan another budget meeting or do you want me to just print new ones? I know Bryce has enjoyed my phone. Sorry.
I'm the only one laughing, so.
I know, you're just so nice.
Okay.
You
So we
humor me.
We're canceling June 19th, June 3rd, but having it, I mean.
Sure you
June
do.
19th, July 3rd, but we're having it June 26th,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. any comment on having another meeting, or what direction do you want to give me? You want me to email out my remaining questions and you can reply to it?
Sure. So you're gonna
I'll
She'll
give you-
revise
update
this
it.
and just email it to us.
I can email it to y'all.
But don't reply all.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please don't reply all.
So you're thinking we don't need to have another meeting? Is that what I'm hearing? You think we're,
Unless
That's up to
Lisa
you
or
guys.
Debbie has any, you know,
Mm,
Yeah.
because she, in all fairness to Debbie, she could, and I.
Yeah,
you
and I
had-
know, yeah, I have
She could have come
conflicts.
tomorrow.
that-
and not tonight, so-
Yeah, I'm
so-
sorry.
so in May, we'll have then the one that we preliminarily approved and,
And on May 15th, we'll have the tentative budget approval.
okay,
June 10th through the 19th will be public inspection. We'll have to send out public notice on the 13th that of the budget meeting. And then the budget meeting hearing, it can be done on the same day as the budget approval. It just has to be done before. It's like its own separate meeting. Where you give people an option to talk, but it's
It's a public hearing.
a public hearing basically, and then we can approve the budget.
and that's the 26th.
Mhm.
So would we want to do that, have the public hearing and have that meeting, are you saying like at 6? That meeting?
Usually you do it like an hour before
Okay.
the other.
So
I mean, where we
people
don't have a big increase for taxes, I mean, you do have rate increases, but they're, yeah, they're crappy, but they're not killer.
Yeah.
So, and I still have a couple questions I don't feel like I got answers on, so I will email those as well. So that I can get direction as to what is wanted in the budget. More so that like 820, what am I doing with that, and then did we wanna put in for the additional cameras for next year,
Wages too.
and the wages,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, so on the furnaces, I'm kind of leaning towards, if we have it, kind of leaning towards taken care of. I'd like to see Ryan's person quote on the cameras.
I'll call them, no.
Do you want to have that person either call me or come into the city and do a bidding, so you had another person?
Oh, for the.
For the
HVAC. I mean, I can call her and, I mean, if you want, I mean, these are probably pretty solid bids, I think. They sound pretty fair.
Do you want,
Yes.
do you want to see, do you want me to make copies of them? Do you want to review them? I called and asked questions. I don't know enough. So I just had to go by like the time and the energy.
I'll tell you what, I'll maybe reach out to her, and if they're interested, have them contact you.
Okay,
And then you can, you know, if you're too busy, I don't know, but. And then, yeah, wages, what do you with wages, so.
Well, and I mean. The thing with the wages is that would be the potential for the increase. It doesn't mean that's what is necessarily given. But it's up to the council on how they want to administer it. I'm just trying to put a placeholder in there
So,
if you want to give anything for the
so in this budget right now, you have 3%.
cost of living
Okay.
and 2% for.
So it's.
Possible merit, it's in there.
It's in there.
It's in
Okay.
there, yeah. Does it mean that's what everybody's gonna get? Not necessarily. I mean, if somebody's not got some certification you want or something like that. Is the sewer person going to be hired at $25 an hour? Probably not, you know? Are you gonna hire Luke's replacement at that price? Probably not, but I have to put something in. To give us an idea. Does that make sense?
and one thing Jared mentioned, like for instance, Darren doesn't have his license for the sewer.
I wonder if
But
you
he
could do
said,
that
but
as
if
an
you
incentive.
did that, yeah, as an incentive, then you could get an increase, like our notaries. Right in there, it said when they become a notary, they get $1 an hour increase. So that was something, if they get their CDL, if we did have that built in there. Then if they were willing to do their CDL, then we could say, okay, you get $1 an hour or whatever. At least that gives a little bit in there
Sure.
as an incentive.
How many, can you give us a breakdown of the tenor of the employees? Cause you mentioned like, if they say 10 years. They get free or all the benefits. It'd be kind of,
Interesting to see.
yeah,
The only one I know of that is 10 is Jared. I think Steve is
I
probably,
thought
he's
Darren
12
was
years.
close to it.
Darren could be close to that.
I thought
I'm
there
trying
was
to think
those
of that,
three.
who is
That's
stopping
the
me
only
like,
ones that were.
some of those younger guys. they're
Yeah.
quite a few
Just those
years.
top three right now.
Yeah.
As far as that, I don't know how Scott's like only been 5 or 6 years, right? I don't, we can.
no,
call
I,
it.
I bet Scott's, but I don't know that he's 10. But
No.
I bet Scott would be maybe 7 or.
But
I
everyone
thought
else,
Jeremy kind of said those three. but
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Okay, well,
thanks for entertaining me tonight.
Hey, thank you.
I'm glad I can be your entertainment. They'll be the walk around.
yeah.
Made it through.
That's kind of all.
Made it through.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting.
Thank you.
You bet, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Just, you know,
A little bit of time to even discuss and.
so like 5:36 or something like that.
Thank you for being willing to do that. I mean, we try it, and if we don't, we didn't put anything in. We said we'd